We're going to speculate about the technicals. We're going to speculate about the fundamentals today. And we do have updated fundamental, well, semi-updated with this 10Q that was filed today. And I do have it pulled up on my computer. That way I can access it a bit quicker. And it's nice that they do provide those hyperlinks online on their investor website, the PDF version, so you can skip around kind of easier. But what I kind of wanted to get into first was their financials, because that's kind of how the 10Q starts. And I am in no way a MBA, and I'm still learning how to read financials. But what you can do is, what's nice is they do provide like a word version of the charts, and kind of describing what's going on. That way, if you can't just read the charts and it's just like comes naturally to you and like a picture of what the financials are doing, then the written form will kind of help guide that narrative. So basically, they have 24 million or around that. We knew this as of September 30th of this year. And I'm still trying to figure out, I don't know if they straight up say their quarterly burn rate and I'm missing it. And I'm sure they have it on there and I'm just missing it because this is a very thorough document. But I think they had somewhere in the 30 millions spent in operation expenses over a 9-month period prior to this September 30th. And y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. Just like raise your hand if you want to speak and we'll get you up here. But essentially, if you do that math, let's see here. I guess I could just pull up the tab. 30 divided by 9 is essentially 3 million. But remember, we were talking like 3 million, 3 to 6 million, or 4 to 6 million per quarter. But that would suggest more of a 3 million per month burn, which is much faster, right? So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. I was getting a phone call there. I had to end it. Scott, I'm going to invite you up here. No worries if you can't speak, but it would be nice to have people up here if you want to come up and bounce ideas about this 10Q and help clarify what's going on, because I'm not a professional financial analyst and reading these things. So I'll say invite Rye up here as well, and Barry, everybody. Just inviting you. So anyway, but regardless of what my math is on that, 30 million spent over a 9-month period, they did explicitly make a statement that I screenshotted that said they believe that their cash flow, or that their current cash on hand, should fund operations, to Q3 of 2024. I don't know, to or through, whatever the verbiage was there. We'll just say to be conservative. The start of Q3 of 2024. So that's like pretty decent, right? That's in line with pretty much what we were anticipating. So I think we did a pretty good job of kind of extrapolating their burn rate with their cash, and it's pretty in line with the company's expectation as well. And this is sort of the main driver of why they dropped that covenant with CRG from 5 million to 500,000, so that they were anticipating that their cash was going to be running out towards Q3 of 2024. And so for that reason, I imagine they wanted to make sure that they didn't breach, cash covenants with their creditor. And so they were, I guess you could call it proactive, in making sure that it was more favorable towards not breaching such a covenant. So that's nice. I will say this, just kind of like a general statement towards this 10Q. And this is kind of what I was posting about is it was so like doom and gloomy. I mean, like the you know going concern statements over the next 12 months. Essentially, like we it's like a bankruptcy risk statement, right? It's like we don't know if we're going to be able to fund operations for the next 12 months type thing. And what I was surprised about wasn't that statement, because I've already read that statement in previous 10Qs that they filed in previous quarters, especially the most recent quarter. They had already used verbiage for this, like, going concern over the next 12 months. And when I read it the first time, it did make me have a actual visceral response, like sweaty palms, chills down my spine, kind of like deer in headlight type thing, fight or flight response. And I was scared when I first read that, but that was in the previous quarter. So when I'm reading this today, I'm like, why are they like, I understand the CYA, the cover your ass statement, like essentially so that you're not getting sued for, if you do go bankrupt type thing. But to keep it in there, and I don't know if the same verbiage was used, or if they updated it at all. You'd have to compare them. And I haven't done that yet, and I probably won't. But it's just, people are definitely looking at that. And so I look at that today and I'm like, well, that was like quarters ago, back when you guys, hadn't raised, essentially 27 million from the ATM already, which they did in the previous quarter. We already knew that. That's not new dilution. So, that didn't raise my eyebrow. It more so was like, why the doom and gloom still? In light of not just a better cash position from the dilution, but also in light of like the advancement of our current pipeline. And then, I have not read word for word the entire 99-page document. I will pour over it more tonight, but I was doing errands today for my girlfriend's birthday this weekend. So I'll read more, but the gist of what I've read so far has been very doom and gloom. Kind of repetitive verbiage from the previous quarter, or the previous 10Q that I read. And it provided almost, well, from what I've read, no forward statements regarding projections for revenue, for sales, for contracts. I'm not talking about stuff that isn't even FDA cleared yet. I'm talking T2 biothreat. 𝗪𝗠 was like during that shareholder conference call that was, recorded, and I have it linked and referenced in my tweets buried months ago, when he was all organic dollar, goal, and talking about, made for the government, by the government, and planning to sell to the government type shit. It's like, since then he has not made a single statement regarding these T2 biothreat panel contracts or anticipated revenue. Nothing. And it's not even in the 10Q. I mean, I'm not saying that the 10Q doesn't mention the biothreat panel at all. I'm just saying I haven't seen any projection of revenue for it, and that seems odd, especially when you're going to be so doom and gloom to the downside. It's like, can we balance it maybe for investors to have some? If you're going to be so cover your ass to the downside, then doesn't that provide you some wiggle room to make some sort of forward-looking statement, so that we can have some upward anticipation, anything whatsoever? So, that's kind of, and we'll get into this, further later on, I think, in the discussion, but that's kind of where I was thinking that this was intentionally worded to the, to the downside, to the kind of, hold on one second. Let me add you, C-Mans. To the downside, kind of negatively. What's up, C-Mans? How are you? No worries if you're fiddling with your mic. Just interrupt me when you're ready. So, oh, what's up? There you are. But I would say that the speculation from the one way negative verbiage from the company without any forward looking statements whatsoever. I guess more so the lack of forward looking statements is the highlighting um, factor here. Is this a company that's actively in M&A talks or something like that? That they're not allowed to, kind of give forward looking statements of revenue or something. But I don't know. That's kind of above my head in terms of like the legality of all those things, and who knows. But maybe there is, and I just haven't read it yet. Let me add you again. Hopefully this isn't my connection. What's up, C-Mans? Can you speak now? Yeah, there you go.
Hey. Yeah, I'm just trying to pick through this 10Q.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
y'all are.
Like, I don't know. Pisses me off.
Yeah, dude, it does, right? It really does. It pisses you off. Like it pissed me off today. I'm like, what is it? What is all this doom and gloom? Like, is this company just gonna go bang? Are we just throwing in the towel here? Like, what's going on here?
I noticed that Sprague, Griffin, and Gibbs are all getting $40,000 this month for their retention bonus.
They're getting that?
Yeah.
Get you up here too, LaFleur. Yeah, I said. See, I didn't even get to that part. Was that later on, or did I just?
It's Section 14 commitment and contingencies.
Okay, I'll see if I can hyperlink to it.
I think they stated it in a prior, but it's
sure. But like, it's like
waive that.
Like, why are these people getting paid?
Yeah. How about you waive it until you can fill all your orders? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like $40,000. What was the back order? 380,000.
Yeah, 120 grand goes a long way towards filling all those orders.
Yeah, so a third of your back orders just given to these fucking executives. It's a joke, man. Unless this company just knows they're $1 billion buyout and they're just like, but that's just not how you operate. Even if you are, it's so irresponsible. You're not coming out. You're not updating shareholders. Nothing.
Yeah, and these common stock warrants, like, it's getting extreme. It's like a death spiral financing, unless there's something going on. I don't know. Don't listen to my doom and gloom.
Oh, no. I mean, we're all in the same spot here. It really feels that way. Oh, did you read the? Oh my God. Maybe I need to pull up my Twitter instead. What's up, LaFleur? Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I got this shit open right now. So I'm looking at it. Definitely no talks about the 510K submission for I guess it would be what resistance, or is that
resistance?
Yeah. So no update on that. No updates on Lime.
Yeah.
I'm definitely seeing some statements as far as kind of survival mode. I would say the only way that we can see this company kind of continuing is by revenue, commercialization, which is kind of the verbiage that they've been using in the documentation as well. So,
yeah, I like this statement from. I agree, LaFleur. Yeah, 100%. And I just read Scott's comment. Seemed like Sprague did it last minute and just changed the numbers and kept most of the words the same. He even missed the deadline to file it, right? So this kind of goes into what I was just about to say. Like, that's a beast comment. That's why I retweeted it, because what was I need to go back to my tweet that had the picture in it. Yeah, that way I can actually read this. So,
but they did beat earnings though. I guess. I mean,
they did.
What
it was like what, a 384 instead of $4 loss or something. Yeah, they did beat it. You're right. And then, so this controls and procedures, evaluation of disclosure controls and procedures. So I'm just going to read this because it's kind of relatively short right here. Management, with the participation of the chief executive officer and CFO, evaluate effectiveness of the design and operation of the company's disclosure controls and procedures as defined in rules, blah, 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 of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934 as of September 30th, 2023. So they reviewed their controls and procedures or something like that. The company's disclosure controls and procedures are designed to ensure that information required to be disclosed by the company in the reports it files or submits under the Exchange Act is recorded, processed, summarized, and reported on a timely basis, and that such information is accumulated and communicated to management, including the CEO and the CFO, as appropriate to allow timely discussions or decisions regarding disclosure. Okay. Following paragraph. This is the great one. Based on the evaluation of our disclosure controls and procedures as of September 30th of 2023, our CEO and CFO concluded that as of such date, the company's disclosure controls and procedures were not effective due to additional material weaknesses in our internal control over and accounting estimate conclusions reached for inventory valuation allowances, impairment of property, plant and equipment, as well as material weakness related to the calculation of earnings per share. The company's previously reported material weaknesses that were reported within the March 31st, 2023 and June 30th, 2023 Form 10-Qs related to the company's disclosure controls and procedures remain unremediated as of September 30th, 2023, as previously disclosed, yada, yada, yada. What the fuck is that? The only thing that makes me feel better is that they straight up say that this has been going on since essentially March 31st that we know of. And that was when the stock fucking skyrocketed. So I don't think that this is like accounting fraud. I think it's like incompetence or something. And the CFO just not being present during an earnings call felt incompetent to me. Space Ghost, yeah, our management has previously held earnings calls. Almost always. This is the first one that I haven't heard. So this is why I'm like, is this getting bought? Are we being acquired? What is going on? Why are we not being spoken to? I feel like a child that's been abused. Space Coast, oh boy. Feel free to, I'm going to invite you up here and elaborate on your oh boy. Oh, there's the bell. What did we close at? 4:33, is that right? I mean, my God, dude.
My dumb ass bought more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm about to as well. Just on a technical aspect, we are so far away from the 9 EMA on the 2-day chart. We had an impulse move down from the 9 EMA from like 560s down to 414 without even touching the 9 EMA yet. That's like that false move to the downside, in my opinion, that I've always seen set up when I've been watching this. That standard deviation move. What's up, Space Coast?
Hey, what's up? Did you request me up? Sorry,
I just saw your oh boy comment. I didn't know like if you wanted to elaborate.
Nah. I think your listeners can kind of just figure out where I'm going with that without hearing it.
I mean, but why though?
Why are they ducking you? They're hiding behind legal jargon that is the minimum requirement to meet the NASDAQ requirements or the NYSE.
Right, like disclosure statements. Yep.
So they're meeting the bare minimum. There are things in the works, trials, other types of things you guys got going on that they are again hiding behind a piece of paper that could be interpreted at least a handful of different ways.
What do you mean trials?
Well, like, are you guys going through like phase 2 or phase 3 trials or some shit, or are you guys all FDA approved? Am I getting my bios mixed up?
You're getting them mixed up. This thing has like 4 FDA cleared products, and then it has the T2 Lyme trial that's going on.
Okay.
And they've been a winner of the phase 1 already.
So they're that trial I'm talking about. So they got operational
The
things.
Steve Cohen Foundation, that hedge fund that gave them money.
Okay, so they got things in operations and production that are potential money makers. So things are going on. So they used to communicate with you for a couple years, handful of years, right? I would assume a handful of years. And then all of a sudden they just say, no, we're not going to have a call anymore. A comment was, we haven't heard from the CEO in, gosh, what feels like forever.
Yep.
I don't know, man. It seems like it's you got one of those top 7 reasons that your company could possibly be bought out. One of them is, we talked about this. Let's not beat it up. But your management just doesn't communicate, doesn't give a shit anymore, right? That's a sign that they sold it and they're just hanging out on the golf course kind of scenario.
Right. Wouldn't that be a bullish thing?
No, but no. Like, what if they're just fundamentally falling apart and they're not communicating? They don't want to lay themselves potentially available to answer retail in a Q&A, especially from hearing on social media. I'm sure the level
if they
of
sold the
intelligence.
company, they can't answer it, right?
I'm just saying, like the board,
or if they're working on selling the company. I mean, if they sold the company, they have to announce that, I would imagine.
I mean, if that's the case, let's talk about the evaluation of the company.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Did we
how
look
much
at?
is this
Did we
shit
look
worth
at
right now?
the
Like,
non-current
honestly.
assets? Did you see the value of their laboratory equipment? It's $5 million. Okay, that's a third of what the company's. Their lab equipment is a third of their current market cap. Did you read that? Lab equipment is very, like, you can sell lab equipment, right? So, like, this company is grossly fucking undervalued. This thing is priced as a current bankruptcy. It's trading less than its non-current. It's trading less than. I should have taken a screenshot. Maybe I did. It was like talking about furniture, lab equipment, all their things that are essentially like not current, but they can sell. So, I mean, I get where you're headed. Like, everyone's thought is there accounting fraud? Is this thing being sold off for parts or what, yada yada? That's the insinuation. I get it. But what I'm saying is, like, look at the hard facts. Their loan doesn't come to maturity until December 2025. The company said that they expect operations to be funded to at least Q3 of 2024. That is, what, 2-3 quarters from now? So why are we trading for less than assets? With 3 quarters of runway, T2 resistance, he said, was anticipated Q1 of 2024. That's 2 quarters before we're supposed to run out of cash. Did he say anything about T2 biothreat revenue yet? Is that on the balance sheet? Nope. So that's what my point is. Where's all that?
and that's my concern. Just you have a management that shut down the channel of communication directly between the investor community and inside the walls. So unless you have somebody operating it, like a hedge fund is operating within the walls, nobody knows anything. Unless they're just going to take that 8K and interpret it the way that they are going to interpret it and do what they're going to do.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, I don't know the reason for not having a call. I think we're all on the same page of not liking it. We certainly don't like it. We want to have a Q&A session. We want to have some of our questions addressed or answered or at least rejected, but have the ability to at least ask them. Or hear somebody else ask them. And that's why I'm hosting this today, is to kind of speculate on reasons of why that's not occurring, because that's not consistent with their behavior in the past. So we've already speculated, or you and I have already kind of insinuated or suggested that there's a possibility of nefariousness and a negative reason for not having a call, whatever that may be. So I think it's fair to also speculate on the positive reasons for that, which would be if you are in active M&A talks, then I would imagine, they would want you to be a little bit hush-hush,
you're in a dark period.
right? What'd you say?
You're in a dark period at that moment.
What do you mean when you're in M&A talks?
You when you have something that's seriously going down, you have to go dark.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of what the company has done, I would imagine. That's how it feels, at least over the 3 years that I've been here. It feels as if the company has just shut off the lights and closed the curtains and, um, you know, put up a moat and said, "No one shall enter."
So then this works out two ways. It's an acquisition target or it's a future bankruptcy.
Sure. And what I'm saying is that this thing has been known to be a future bankruptcy since the last 10Q. They've been saying the ongoing forward, concern over 12 months already, quarters ago. So in light of that, the institutional community has read that statement. I've read that statement. Everybody's read that statement. Why has the share price dropped another 90% after we've raised more cash after that statement, had another product FDA cleared after that statement, and haven't even factored in the revenue from it? It's not like the company lied about TTOO Biothreat being FDA cleared. That's an FDA cleared product. Legit. So, unless the FDA is in cahoots, in which case we have a bigger problem, right? As Americans, and that's a whole nother story and rabbit hole. But yeah, what's up, LaFleur?
So when they IPO, what were they valued at? And maybe is that kind of like a starting point, or is that like a ballpark number?
Well, we did the I did the math on there was a previous filing that said the outstanding shares, and there was the share price back then, so we were able to compute the market cap back then. I think it was back in 2021 or around that area, and it was somewhere around the realm of 200 or 250 million. I don't know what it was at IPO, but I'm pretty sure that is the highest market cap that it's been in company history. Which actually makes sense, because that was when, right, we had all of the QE from the Fed. The market was putting crazy PE multiples on companies that were unprofitable but still had revenue and were growing. So that makes sense that was like the highest valuation. So in my opinion, that should be the base of what this company is valued, is because, I mean, we've only gotten more revenue from our product base and advanced our pipeline, which materially changes the value of the company, because it materially changes another company's ability to get revenue from that pipeline, in an acquisition or licensing deal, or so whatever it is. So that's why it's like absurd to me that we're trading we guys, I really do believe that this is really trading at a bankruptcy valuation right now. I mean, 15 million on the NASDAQ, guys. 15 million.
I mean, when they say shit like that in the fucking filings, it's basically saying we're going bankrupt. So
Yeah,
you can't blame them.
but my point is though is they've already said that last 10Q. So what, like, and did we not go to 70 cents after? Like what, like, you know what I'm saying? And did CRG not eliminate 10 million of our debt after that? Like and did they not extend the loan maturity after that? Like, it's crazy to me that this is happening.
Yeah, and it's crazy how the loan is beyond what they expect them to kind of like keep the lights on for. So I don't know.
Exactly, and that's why they had to do that cash covenant decrease from 5 million to 500,000. But do you guys think that a predatory creditor would be willing to adjust that 5 million to 500,000? Why wouldn't they just keep it at 5 million and say, no, we've given you chances, time to pay up? You know what I'm saying? So like, it just, that's why I'm saying like the 10Q feels detached from reality. You know what I'm saying? Like, it feels delayed. It feels like it's describing the company that was maybe 6 months ago. And so then you wonder, why is that? Right? And I do think that it's pretty binary. It's like, well, you're either going like bankrupt and they're just saving face, or that this is actually getting bought out or merged or licensed or whatever. Gary, what are you chewing on?
I kind of just worry that because they're so quiet, like they're diluting the piss out of us right now. And I think that's kind of why they're quiet, because if they're trying to pump it and then they dilute, like, they don't want to be part of that. But that's the only rationale I can find. Like, because
yeah, no, I mean, that could certainly be a reason for being quiet. We know that. Let's talk about dilution. We know that statement that I took a screenshot of said 0.8 million, 800,000, right? That they had raised after the September 30th deadline, or not deadline, but date that they keep reporting. And so that's not too much. That's, not even $1 million. But then, Scott brought it to my attention that, or I think he calculated that if we're assuming a 4.5 million outstanding share size, which is essentially what was reported, or I think it was 4.5. It was like this common outstanding share, like weighted average diluted earnings per share, whatever it was. It was like 4.5 million. Well, if you take that number now and that's the outstanding share size, then it was probably 3.5 million that they raised or something like that. So that's interesting, because that would suggest that they shouldn't really need to be continuing to dilute at this point. I don't know.
yeah, I agree, and that's what's strange, I guess. I don't know.
Hey, TCAM?
Trying to wrap my head.
Yeah, what's up, bro?
Hey, I'm sorry I signed on late, only in time to hear you talk about bankruptcy. But wouldn't if bankruptcy was something that was in the near term kind of fear, wouldn't CRG, wouldn't we notice them starting to dump their shares?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you would think.
You would think.
You would think they would convert and dump.
Yeah, the prefers for sure. Yeah.
I've seen your sketchy players in the market, like Sabby, our friend Hal over there. Friggin', buy warrants, you know, basically the dilution money, give it to the company, and those fucking warrants go poof in bankruptcy. Happens all the time.
Right, but luckily I was on a call with PB Soups and we did the math on the outstanding warrants and it was like negligible. I mean, it converted to like 70,000 shares or something. So they do have outstanding warrants for sure. And they do have messy players like 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 in it. But I think 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 actually is under investigation currently. And I mean, that's like, you know, there's just so many angles, right? There's like that angle that we have weird players in this that are probably naked shorting this as well, which is hindering this stock. And how does the company stop naked shorting? I mean, it's basically diluting the company without raising cash. It's terrible, right?
Are you losing your hope that they purposely make things look bad for merger and acquisition reasons or buyout reasons?
Not at all.
Okay.
No, it's the only thing that makes sense logically to me. I mean, I'm being devil's advocate to retain my bias or kind of hedge my bias is a better way of saying that. But
no, I agree. I've always agreed with you along that thought process. I just, you know, with the more crap that keeps coming out, or the non-information that doesn't come out, it's like, are you still holding that as?
Yeah, because the number one narrative that basically eliminates the bankruptcy and can defeat it or negate it is that we have 2 to 3 quarters of runway and our pipeline and our balance sheet has not even reflected T2 biothreat, and T2 resistance is supposed to be commercialized Q1.
Right.
Or even Q2, right? So and then Lyme, right? There's just so many things that haven't been actually, you know, pun intended here, accounted for.
So when they release their, no conference call today, but when they release their SEC filings, I mean, that as far as only concerned as September 30th, right? They don't have to disclose anything any conversations or anything that's in the works after the 30th?
I would imagine so, because, and that's a great point, because are you alluding to the biothreat?
Right, because you mentioned that wasn't even talked about, because
right.
no future earnings is being talked about, because maybe that happened after September 30th.
Yep, I agree. And that would make sense, right? Because then they can be tongue in cheek about it, right? And be like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, you know, in this earnings report. And then the next earnings, you're like, wham.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that would be a really strategic move, but I don't know, man. They need to. And then you ask, well, then why not project that revenue? And then that suggests towards the buyout, in my opinion, or the merger. Because a company like 𝗪𝗠 can not report the revenue, but in the same 10Q maybe say, you know, this doesn't include T2 biothreat contracts that occurred after this date, or some vague statement like that.
I mean, if he wanted to come out, he could talk about a futuristic pipeline. I mean, he could, without talking about stock price, say we're headed in the right direction. You know, there's things coming.
Yeah, there's
but
just
he
like,
did.
oh yeah, but he did. You're right, Catherine.
Taylor, I believe you said that you did not hear that call, but the one in September, it was a video call. This is the
You mean the October prelims?
No. Back in September, and 𝗪𝗠 said that we were at the 20-yard line in the red zone. So I'm thinking, what'd you do? Give the ball to the other side? But my question really becomes, how long, if anyone knows, does a merger/acquisition take? Because if we are in the 20-yard line in the red zone, I don't even understand football.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, that was only 3 months ago he said it.
Right. No, I agree with you, Catherine. And if you guys have watched Succession, and If you've seen Succession and watched their M&A talks that occurred, like these things go back and forth and back and forth. I know it's a drama series, but it's
So like,
pretty.
are we still in the red zone at the 20-yard
Yeah,
line?
I agree, and it's like
It's just that we're getting
pipeline.
antsy. That's it.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think we're getting antsy because we're just in the dark.
Right. That's what I wanted to say. I think they're just trying to lull us to sleep, and then
Or give up.
everybody's gonna sell. 'Cause
Yeah.
Who wants to be in a stock that's down 90%, 80%, 70% when you got in?
Exactly.
It's just it's ridiculous. But shit, I fucking hope Spurs didn't fucking turn this shit over.
Yeah, right. Fumble it at the 1 yard line.
Yeah,
Trying to
either
go for
that or
two
he
and
put his
shit. Trying
foot
to
in his mouth.
add a couple million to the fucking evaluation and shit and get his ass turned away.
Right. And then you're like, oh shit, and you're just left there holding your stuff in your hand. Yeah, no, I agree that would be that would be entertaining and a funny way to go out for us, but no, I don't think that's the case. I think the alternative is much more likely. I think we are in the red zone. I think we're actively negotiating. I think our pipeline is actively advancing, and so it kind of is giving us this fluid negotiation. We really are on the fringe of like an inflection point in this company. So every day that we get, right, I seen it's back to 510K submission just happened, right? Like that's about to be cleared. How do you interpret the conversion rate for that? Like I imagine these are all negotiations that are just very subjective, like that they're going back and forth and arguing on. I really don't know. I don't know. But I do know that the more players that are involved that want this technology, I imagine that's the best thing that we can have is just a bid war. I mean, because then whenever there's a bid war, then you get egos involved. It's not so much numbers, right? What's up, biotech?
Why isn't it showing that people want this technology though?
In the hospitals?
Anywhere, government contract, anything.
Well, I mean they like we said they could just have the government contracts and not reporting on them right now. But in terms of the hospital conversion rate, it's the T2 resistance panel, in my opinion, because if you were in the hospital and you already have like the bacteria in the Canada panel, right? Why wouldn't you use it? Well, because first of all, you should be using it, and they probably are using it. We know that 30% is like the current utilization rate at already established, T2DX established hospitals, and they're trying to get to 70%. But I imagine it's because they don't have the antibiotic sensitivity, they don't have the resistance to pair with the positive result, right? Like, so if they get that T2 bacteria panel positive for Staph aureus, they don't have the resistance to tell them if there's vancomycin resistance or anything like that. But even then, it still doesn't. To me, it's actually more of, yeah, that's the scientific reason for not utilizing it. But even then, you could start. I mean, it's better than the alternative of having to wait days later anyway for your sensitivity report with blood cultures. So that argument doesn't even make sense. I think, in my opinion, it's because they still have to use blood cultures. So it's really just an added expense. And it's not changing I mean, it is changing therapy, but not to the degree where it would drive massive adoption. And that's why you need the next gen and you need the resistance to pair with it. That's how you're going to get. That's why I'm saying like the next gen is the money maker, but we have to survive until we get to that. So that's more important. Like the next gen is what puts the valuation on the company and time, but in terms of revenue, you have to get it from BioThreat, you have to get it from resistance, which drives conversion rate of currently utilized T2DX, And then third, you have to have T2 line.
So how far out is next gen?
Well, that's a great question. It leads
That is a great question, because in the filing they keep talking about how BARDA is not funding next gen.
Yes, I agree. We need to talk about it. That's a great segue into something else I wanted to discuss. Was they keep mentioning, and I don't want to say that they're saying that they're not funding next gen. This is what they said. They said that the option 3 has expired in September. They didn't mention anything about an option 4. And then they said that puts them at a going concern for the funding of the next generation instrument or panel or whatever it was called. Now, what's interesting is that is a doom and gloom statement, but in reality, what happened to the 30 million that was in the 70 some million contract that we were awarded? We had only utilized 40 million of it. And then the option 3 expires in September. And Raj was on one of these calls, and he even said that he thinks that the 30 million is still available in like an option 4 that they just haven't talked about yet. And also 𝗪𝗧𝗛 said that they don't anticipate any more BARDA funding for the rest of basically 2023, but he hasn't mentioned anything about 2024. And it's not like our BARDA relationship just severed. I mean, maybe it did, but what happened to that money? Like, we didn't get a PR saying that it was like taken away from us. And I don't know. Are we just to assume that it's just poof gone? $30 million? It's like almost half the award. And why? Why are they pulling out? What the fuck? What's going on? If that is the case. So it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense that they're pulling out right when we're literally finishing. We checked off 1, the bio threat. That was like the phase 1. Phase 2 is T2 resistance. We're about to check that off. So what the fuck? I mean, oh, it's infuriating that they're just leaving us in the dark about this stuff. Like,
Do you get the feeling, Taylor, that we're either about to get sliced off at the ankles, or we're in for one hell, and I don't curse, a big surprise
yeah.
to the upside? It's
Well, I
gotta be one
posted.
or the other.
I mean, the fundamentals are all suggesting the pipeline advancement, all of that, outside of the negative forward-looking or really not forward-looking statements, the current-looking statements, or even past-looking statements. I think we're in for a hell of a ride, because a surprise to the upside, because nothing makes sense for the next 1 to 2 quarters for all this negativity and negative 90% drop. They only mentioned 80 or 800,000 of dilution, maybe 3.5 million. So that's the range, 800,000 to 3.5 million that they diluted. Not shares, I'm talking money. So that would put our current outstanding share size at 4.5 million, which in the scheme of things, if this is a few $100 million company to $1 billion company, not a big deal. And then, did you guys see that thing that I posted about the standard deviation AB move?
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Yeah.
That is fucking insane. I don't follow that guy. He doesn't follow me. We don't talk. All I did is I saw his thing, and I'm like, oh, that looks like our quarterly chart. Let me see if I can draw a little line that traces that. Boom. Low, pivot high, liquidity sweep low, bang. Goodbye. And then I put it in context to our 9 EMA standard deviation gap or vacuum or diversion, whatever you want to call it. It sounds crazy. I look like a lunatic when you got a stock at 15 million and it's at $4, and I'm out here like this is a couple $100, could be $1,000, could be $1 billion company. A $1 billion valuation puts this at, I think, around 250. Let me do the math. So let's do that divided by 4.5 million, $222, which I believe is our 52-week high.
I'll take it.
Our 52-week high is $234, and a $1 billion valuation with our current outstanding share size would put us at 222. So that's an interesting, that's very interesting to me. I think a lot of people here would take that.
So Thierry Bernard is just sitting there watching this shit happen, though.
Yeah, that's the thing is and not only is he just happily watching, he's making comments on LinkedIn to Bob saying that he thinks Spunzel's a great CEO. And we've even speculated about that. Like, is that like a tongue-in-cheek comment of thank you for your service, goodbye? So I don't know, man.
Or it's because they know there's something coming that we
yeah,
should.
right. Or a tongue-in-cheek, like he's a great CEO because he just got this thing sold for $1 billion or some shit.
That's the pitiful part of it, is that we know nothing.
Yeah, right. We know nothing. And really the reason for it, the intention surrounding that, they back it up with the legal jargon of we're in a dark period, yada, yada. But really, guys, what it does is it creates fear and uncertainty and in doubt. Yeah, we call it FUD, but like it's a true human reaction to when you don't hear anything and you're put in the dark. You become fearful, you become uncertain, you become doubtful, it becomes emotional to you. And then put that in the context of the finances of the world right now and just inflation. The intentionality is to drive retail out of this stock and replace it with institutional hands, in my opinion, down here at the bottom. And then bang, they turn fucking millions into billions overnight or whatever the hell, hundreds of millions. And by the way, if you look at the 1 minute chart, I mean, you're seeing these crazy $30,000 or 30,000 share 1 minute candles being bought daily for the past 3 weeks. 15 to 30,000 shares. Guys, that's 1.5 to 3 million shares pre-reverse split. I mean, what's the dollar amount of that? I mean, what 30,000 times $4 is. Those are basically $150,000 purchases just sprinkled. In my opinion, that's kind of an accumulation pattern that you're seeing. Especially if this thing, right, if you know that you can, if someone wanted to really truly buy, $3 million worth of stock, which is what, 12 million shares? Or no, sorry, 1 million shares or something like that. That would, I mean, can you imagine 1 million share volume in 1 minute? This thing would go ballistic. I mean, that person would get filled at like $4, $5, $6, $8, $10. He'd basically fill himself up 100%. His or her own volume would drive the stock price ballistic. So they can't do that. They have to put in these 30,000 share, purchase orders sprinkled over weeks. and then bang. That's how these fuckers work, dude.
Well, wouldn't they just put in a limit order and then wait for it to fill, and then if it drops back down, fill it again? Like, they don't need to fill the whole million in one go, right?
Isn't that what I'm saying?
Right, but so exactly. So I mean, there wouldn't be any reason for it to spike that crazily. They just wait for it to come back down, which I think is the majority of people who do
That's what-
large purchases. They just do that.
That's what I'm saying. They're accumulating. They're not filling a 1 million order in a minute. They're sprinkling it out in 10 to 20 to 30, 40 to 50 orders over 3 weeks, accumulating the stock. And who's selling? I would imagine they're getting that liquidity from retail, who's down here calling it, a shitty company that's going bankrupt and dilution and yada, 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 yada. How much dilution could possibly occur in the last however many months if there's 4.5 million shares outstanding?
So there's 4.5 million now, if that's what they said. But so looking at the 10Q, it looked like a year ago, after accounting for the reverse splits, there were 77,000 shares. And as of this filing, there was 3,900,000 and about 20,000, which is a 50x dilution in 1 year.
Yep, exactly. And look at what the share price did.
Yeah.
Right. So you're telling me the past.
Okay. Well, yes. And this is actually a really good point. So you brought up a couple of things of what I've been listening to. And I think the last time we talked, we'd had a discussion about what was going to happen with their T2DX instruments. And I had brought up the fact that I think if you want to know where their ramp could be, you'd have to look at the sales projections for that instrument, right? Because all of their panels run on the instruments. And if you want to have any ramp up in sales of the panels, you need to have a ramp up in sales of the instruments.
That's not necessarily true if you have a 30% utilization of panels that currently installed instrument.
Right. But I guess what you could look back on,
right,
is from 2020 to 2022, 2023, you had quite reasonably what could be called the largest demand for testing in the history of our country, which would be for the COVID panel. And so the revenue that you got from that COVID panel would be a really good sort of litmus test for the total capacity that these instruments provided for the company, right?
False. There was a huge competitive base of COVID and zero moat that we had surrounding COVID. So why would that in any way, shape, or form be a litmus test for the revenue of a gold standard designation of a sepsis panel?
So okay. So you said there's no moat for the COVID panel.
Correct.
But there is a large moat for the sepsis panel, right? Because there's quite a few already established players there. There's even more competition.
No. So the next generation so it's frustrating that I'm even having to explain this to you, because if you're a bear, you should already know this shit. So I'm teaching you right now, by the way. No, truly. Let that be established, because you obviously don't know your shit if I'm having to tell you this. So if their next generation is supposed to be what gets them their gold standard, and they haven't gotten their next generation yet, how could a COVID panel be a litmus test for a revenue capacity of their instrument?
Because the COVID panel was purchased by BARDA, which means that they were trying to purchase as much as was possibly available for these panels, for these instruments. The government does not really care about day-to-day usage. They try to maximize the availability. And also, in terms of teaching someone, which is funny because I'm just like passing through here and seeing this company. You mentioned you're wondering what happened to the BARDA funding. We're in this own 10Q talking about option 3. It tells you exactly how much money BARDA exercised for option 3, which was
That's not what I said.
3.7.
I said option 4, brother.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. The contract for BARDA expired in 2023. So what is option 4?
Yes, option 3 expired. That's what I'm saying. What happened to the remaining 30 million? They were awarded up to 74 or 75 million dollars, and they've been exercised up to 30 some million. So what happened to the rest?
They're optioned up to 69 million. And in September of 22, BARDA exercised option 3 for 3.7. And they used that for clinical trials for the T2 biothreat panel. And then it expired with no more funding. BARDA is done.
No, the funding was for the next generation panel, my friend. Are we done with the next generation panel?
I mean, you would, in the legal filings from this company, you would find that. So where do you see 4? Option 4?
Does anyone want to back? Like, am I just going to stand on an island here? Like,
No, I mean, you're not on an island, my friend. You do have the actual filings from this company that you can go back to. And unfortunately, I can search for option 3 and see the numbers I'm saying.
no, I know, but I'm not just going to sit here and argue you mano y mano. Like, if anyone wants to come up and speak their word about this bullshit, then go forth.
No, I don't really want to kind of indulge in it, but I'll say that to my knowledge, the BARDA contract was up to about 75 million. They exercised 30 for the development of T2 biothreat, and then the other funding was supposed to be allocated towards the development of the next generation, and that was when Spunzel was talking about the, funded by the government, for the government, sell it to the government kind of verbiage, trying to kind of sell the pitch that this is specifically for the government, and this is how our contracts will be coming into fruition for future funding and revenue and things.
I am reading the filing that just got filed, which if the company were to lie on this filing, they would be in big trouble. And on this filing, it says in September 2023, the company's milestone-based product development contract with BARDA expired, which may impact the company's ability to continue to fund the development of its next generation products. There is no wording of generation 4. There's no wording of next generation. There's
Did
no
I
wording.
Right. That's
Did
true.
I not
Okay, cool. That's fine. That's fine. And that is correct by the filing. But even in the preliminary earnings, John Spunzel himself kind of verbalized that next generation or other products would or could be funded by BARDA. But
Of
yet,
course, yeah, they absolutely they could be.
right.
That's
But
absolutely true.
and to your point, the contract that you're speaking to was expired.
Yeah.
But to our knowledge, Next Gen was supposed to be under that contract, hence why Camp is talking about option 4. So that is kind of where the confusion and the speculation is kind of coming from.
Like, I'm not saying that there's an actual option 4. I'm alluding to there should be something of the sort of an option 4. Call it option 1 of a new contract, whatever the fuck you want to call it. The CEO is talking about that this next generation is supposed to be funded by the government. So
I see what you're saying. Yeah, but I mean, to be really, really frank with you, man, there's a lot of companies that got money from BARDA during the COVID times that continue to go back to that well, and it never comes through because it's done. There was a big spigot of money during COVID, and if they did not get the entirety of that contract due to COVID, unless they have some other contract that they have already signed and have in, that's a really dangerous thing to think is going to come down the line. And in terms of where the money went, they authorized up to a certain amount, and then they spent that amount that they needed, and then they just stopped.
Well, the great part is I'm not worried about it too much because we have T2 line.
Oh, yes, true. And that gets me back to my point about the capacity of the current T2DX instruments. And you need to look at like what is there. And I do think if you want to look at what is coming down the pipeline, you could continue to look at these filings or listen to the words or parse them. But you can also call up some of the key hospitals in regions and ask them if they have that instrument. Like it's not a big
I
deal
don't
to
have
call
to
them.
do that though. Like, why would I do that? Why would I go and like track down what hospitals are utilizing T2DX? That does nothing for me. I already
It does a lot for you because it tells you whether or not new hospitals are taking up this technology. Why would that do nothing for you?
because I already know. Oh my god, dude, this is so frustrating. And I have to even like I've said this so many times. I've done like 55 hours of talking. I feel like I'm fucking responding. So I feel like I'm like explaining the bull thesis to you, and there's just no reason for me having to do this. But
No, that's a silly thing to say though, right? Because
no, it
if
is.
if
It's
you're
not a silly thing because listen, I've already said so many times in the past why, if I were to be approached by a T2 salesman, why I would probably reject them in their current fucking state. So how are you going to tell me that calling hospitals and asking why they're not adopting the technology would change my fucking mind about anything?
I didn't say why you would call them, ask them why they're not, just to see if they already are. Because last time I talked to you before this 10Q, you told me that because of the new panels that were available, I should expect a surprise in the amount of adoption they have for T2DX.
So
Now you're
for
telling
which
me,
panel did I say?
you said that they just launched their new panels and that the T2DX systems, you might be surprised by the amount of uptake there is.
Did
And so
I
it's
say that
silly.
verbatim? That's what I said.
Look, dude, if you're down 99% on
No,
something, it
no.
might be
Don't deflect,
worthwhile
bro.
to
Is that what I
listen.
fucking said, or is that not what I said? Or are you quoting some bullshit right now that I never said?
I don't know if I'm quoting you exactly, but you told me when I brought up the fact that you would look at the
Because it doesn't even
T2DX
make sense
instance.
that a hospital adoption rate would fly up with the T2 biothreat panel. So I must have been alluding to the T2 resistance panel if I said such a thing. And if I did say that, alluding to the T2 resistance panel, it's not commercialized yet. So why would you see an uptake currently in their T2DX conversion rate and sales rate?
Okay, then we just circle right back around to the cash burn and cash on hand because then there's no real opportunity for a ramp at this point.
Oh, there's
Right?
not an opportunity for a ramp when the company has cash available to Q3 2024, but T2 resistance is supposed to come Q1 to Q2 of 2020.
Well, they don't have cash available until Q3 2024. They have $24 million in cash and they have $15 million
Oh,
per
so wait,
quarter in
the
losses.
company? No. You said that it's bad if the company's lying on the sale or on this 10Q, but I have a screenshot that fucking says they have cash available to Q3 of 2024. So which one is it?
If you look at their actual burn rate, they don't.
No.
They might be talking about
Don't
having
tell
it
me a burn rate, nothing. This is a quoted statement from the company in the 10Q.
Yeah, they might be able to do that if they stop doing all operations, which is something that they might have on hand.
Oh,
But the last time we talked, you were very mad at me for not knowing their exact burn rate. And now I know their exact burn rate, which
okay.
is $15,425,000 per quarter. And they have $24,319,000 in cash. So you can do the math of 24
Hey, hold
minus
on,
15.
hold on.
Jesus fuck. Thank you, LaFleur, dude. I can't with this, man, dude.
Hold on.
I literally
I
can't.
don't know, but no. I didn't know they were burning 15. I thought they were burning 6. Because if they were burning 6, that would explain the 24. And, us having money till Q3.
Exactly.
No.
So the company's just lying, I guess. So they're just fucking making statements on the 10Q, lying out here.
But if that's the case, Sprague is fucking asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, dude.
My bad.
No, man. At this point, I don't even.
So
I
the
come on here to
losses.
talk about the 10Q, and you're out here like I don't even know. Like,
So page 2, loss from operations is 13.6. Total costs and expenses is 15. A net loss is 15,425, like I talked about. This is page 2. You can take a look at it. Comprehensive loss is 15,425. Like I said, page 2 of the 10Q.
yep, we're going bankrupt, bro. Fuck it, sell it all, guys. We're going bankrupt.
Well, that's such a childish thing to say. Like, just
No, dude, it's
look
not.
at the
You're
numbers.
right. Hey, no, you're right. We're going bankrupt. You're right, bro. Fuck it.
What have I said to you that is not reasonable? Like I've
No,
said,
dude,
like you can look.
you're 100% reasonable, and you're right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Fair.
Okay. All right. You're right.
I mean, does anyone else think I'm not being reasonable? I'm just looking at the
No, man,
numbers.
the most reasonable.
You sound like you should not own this asset.
Well, I don't own this asset.
No,
at
you
all.
sound like you should sell this
that's
asset.
probably the smartest thing you've ever done then.
Yeah, dude, super smart that you don't own this asset. Genius. Genius biotech investor.
Yeah, I do okay. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing terrible at the moment. Down like 80% or something like that. So like no one should listen to me. They should all listen to you. Unfollow me. Follow biotech.
Yeah, Taylor, you're full of crap.
I'm full of shit, guys. I have no fucking clue what I'm talking about. I have no fucking clue, guys. I am like
Catherine,
up
why
here.
are you laughing though? What part of that is incorrect so far?
No, no one's laughing, bro. I have no fucking idea what I'm talking about. Like I'm up here just spitting shit.
I'm agreeing with Taylor. He's full of crap.
Full of shit. Damn. Guys, I just got fucking bamboozled live. I don't know my shit. You guys should all unfollow me. This thing's going bankrupt to zero. They don't have cash to fund themselves for the next quarter. It's going to get sold off for bits and pieces to CRG.
Potentially.
Yep, essentially. No, dude. 100%. All right. Do you have anything further to add, or is that it? Have you proven the thesis, or?
No, I came on the call because last time we talked, we kind of hit a loggerheads because we were waiting for this next 10Q, and then this 10Q came out.
No, we weren't waiting for the next 10Q, brother. But no, you've come on here, you've proven yourself right, you've proven me wrong live, and yeah, man.
Okay, but I'm honestly not trying to be an asshole. I'm just like, this is what I'm seeing.
No, you've already come across as an asshole, brother. That's like done. So whether you tried or not, you succeeded. and I'm an asshole too, so it's all good. But yeah, you're just a different type of asshole. One that
Taylor,
just doesn't.
Before he goes,
Yeah.
any thoughts on like what it would take for this company to turn around if your thesis is correct, biotech? Like, have you seen similar plays?
This is the sort of company where they need to have an expansion in the user base of their instruments because everything that they do relies upon the user base. Because you can only have a set limit of revenue expansion based upon the T2DX instrument because they can sell panels for those instruments. And so if I was someone who's new to this company and investing today, like right now, I would do what I just suggested earlier, and I would start calling my local hospitals that do diagnostics for these different tests and say, have you heard of this technology? Are you interested in it? And be really like not at all aggressive, but just sort of like, is this something on your radar? And if all of them say no, then it suggests to you that no matter what they come out with, it won't matter because there's no place for them to ramp
Guys,
sales.
if you cold call your
Well,
hospital, they say no. Just assume it's a shit technology and it's not
No,
anything to do with
that's the
Well,
silliest.
you're on the
That's
phone.
all the hospitals that had acquired the machines for COVID still have the machines. They just may not have translated them into using them for sepsis diagnosis.
right,
So
and
we
that's why I was saying use the COVID sales projections as like the current peak, and I think that's reasonable.
well,
but
according to John Spurz's most recent alleged interview, we were supposed to convert those clients into clients of the sepsis panel, being that they had the instrument. So
Correct.
I'm not sure
And the
how
question was why
much of that
converted.
percentage that we converted, but that was supposed to be the game plan for going to
Mhm.
market in that way.
and the panels are the revenue generator, and so they weren't generating revenue, to my knowledge, with the COVID panels. That was all funded by BARDA, so they weren't getting the revenue. They just got the revenue for the devices. So the panels for the sepsis would be the revenue driver. So I agree that the adoption of using the already established machines for sepsis is key to keeping the lights on, but I don't think that that's the max cap of potential revenue, at least not current. But I understand what you're saying.
And then biotech, I have a question. Like, what are your thoughts on the relationships that they have in the academic world? Is that of value? Is that reputable? How do you take that?
That sort of thing is great to have. I mean, the really truly fraudulent companies, which I do not think this company is fraudulent in terms of what they're doing.
Okay,
The-
great. So like,
those bad companies, they will have nothing available, or they'll have lab ties that are really easy to pick apart. But in terms of what keeps the lights on and what generates revenue and what returns funds to investors, you can have lots of university or even industry ties that if they have no funds or revenue tied to them, it doesn't matter that much. It always comes back to you need to keep the lights on. So what is the burn rate and what is the cash on hand?
What do you think
And
T2 resistance panel is going to do for this company?
the reason I guess it depends on, like I said before, what is the current sort of overhead of what they can do? Like, what is the most money they can make from the current user base? And is the most money they can make from the current user base enough to keep them funded? And so, what is the most money they've ever made in consumables? Was 2022 their peak year?
So you're going to base potential of the resistance panel on past revenue of COVID panels?
I mean, honestly, would you say that COVID was a relatively unique high demand situation, or would you say it's lower than that?
Unique to sepsis, definitely drove sepsis. Unique to the adoption of their panels, no, not whatsoever. At their current pipeline stage back when COVID was unanimous and prevalent. Again, you didn't answer the question. What is T2 resistant? You just gave me a bunch of really vague words like funding and capacity.
but honestly, that's not even what our next step or their next step is.
Yeah, no, he just
From what they
talking about the
publicized, it's
past.
supposed to be the LDT line kind of.
Well, no, I want to talk about like this because you keep alluding to the previous COVID and how if the hospitals didn't take it during COVID, then why would it take it now? Well, again, COVID was a Trojan horse to get T2DX in the hospital. The plan thereafter by management, not what I'm saying was the best plan, but this was their plan objectively, was to get COVID to be run on the T2DX and then hopefully convert over to their T2 bacteria and Candida panels being run on the T2DX. The problem with that plan was, why would the hospital convert just randomly from blood cultures to the T2 bacteria and Candida panels? Again, for the fifth fucking thousandth time that I've said this, because it would cost the hospital more money to run a T2 bacteria and Candida panel and then have to also do blood cultures and wait. Even if the patient tested positive, actually better yet, even if the patient tested negative with their T2 bacteria and Candida panels, it didn't matter. You couldn't discharge the patient. It didn't save the hospital money in that regard. They still had to wait 72 hours for the blood culture and the sensitivity report to result back. So, in my opinion, it was a fucking stupid ass move by management to expect just a miraculous conversion rate. And they should have doubled down on the T2 line panel, in my opinion. But what's done has been done. So moving forward, what's going to drive the adoption and the conversion rates of the T2 bacteria and Candida panels, which are the revenue generators on the already established T2DX instruments, and also could potentially drive more sales of the T2DX instrument? That would be the T2 resistance panel. So that's why I'm asking you, what is the T2 resistance panel going to do for the adoption and the conversion rate of the current T2DX instrument? That was a question.
Okay. I don't know. Has it? Is there any markets that it's been launched and you could track that?
So the CE is CE branded in the EU right now, which means that you could technically sell this in the EU, which I've also taken screenshots of. Currently, I believe is almost 40% of our installed T2DX base.
Yeah.
That's quite notable, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Almost half of our T2DX instruments are international. Why would that be? That seems like an outsized proportion of international sales comparative to domestic sales. I wonder why that would be.
Because domestic sales are terrible, are not good, right? Wouldn't that be what you would say from that?
No, I'm asking, what is the only variable between domestic and international sales capacity currently? That would be the T2 resistance panel, which is CE marked in Europe for commercialization.
Oh, so you're saying that the resistance panel is driving the sales of the instrument because it's available.
Europe. Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. So it became available in 2022 in Europe? Or when did it become available in Europe? Sorry.
The CE marking, I'm not sure actually.
Because that's actually a great point. So if you're thinking that it's driving the sales of the instruments, then you would look at, okay, when did it become available in Europe? And then at what rate did the total installed instruments start to become a large percentage in Europe? And if it is like suddenly when that panel became available in Europe, the instrument started to sell, which gets us back to my original point of tracking instrument sales, then you could say, hey, look at this. This resistance panel is clearly driving sales of the instrument, which is fantastic. I think that's great.
Sure, that's intuitive to me. So you can do your research, but I'm just telling you, that's intuition for me.
Okay, yeah, and that's doable. So everyone on the call, like, do that. Take a look at when the resistance panel became available in Europe.
No, I need to.
And then look.
Intuitive to me.
What do you mean intuitive? What does that even mean? Like, how does someone listen?
Like literally second nature. Like I can understand it without having to go look at the data. I practice medicine. I naturally understand that if you have the capacity to have a panel that detects resistance, that it's going to drive conversion of the sepsis panels. That's
You
intuitive.
mean drive installation of the diagnostic instrument?
Sure, both.
Okay.
My job isn't to fucking convince you to buy this company, dude.
No, I totally get that. I'm not asking you to convince me. I'm literally talking through what I would want to look for in a company. And if it's not useful to you, like if I'm saying nothing you've ever, like, if nothing I'm saying is new to you and you've thought of it all and you're good to go, then fine. And if everyone on the call thinks like I'm saying nothing useful, that's fine too.
Well,
But
it's not useful to me. I'm going to be very blatant about that. So, I mean, it might be useful to others, but yes, you have not said anything that has taught me anything.
I would like a positive outcome. So I would like your kind of thoughts on a positive outcome, how that can translate, what that looks like for a company like this, and kind of like that timeline that you could probably speculate.
yeah, and I would say that what TCAMP just brought up in terms of their adoption in Europe, if you see a ramp up in sales of the instrument after the approval of this panel, then his bull thesis on T2 resistance being a driver for adoption would make sense. I think that would make a lot of sense. But you'd need to look at those numbers, and those numbers are available. And so I really do not understand the idea that you could just say it's intuitive, so I'll go off of that. Because lots of things are intuitive, but I mean, if investing was just intuitive, we'd all be rich, right? But like that's
No, I didn't say investing was intuitive. I said that resistance
adoption is
panel,
intuitive.
I said that the resistance panel driving conversion rate and adoption is intuitive.
But you can actually look at that. Like, why would you not look at that?
I have looked at that. I know what.
Okay, so it does then. So you can say that after the panel was approved, that the installation
No,
rate in
I haven't
Europe
looked
went
at
up?
the timeline. That's fine. You can look at it, bro. Why the fuck do you want me to do more research into this? I'm already invested. Like, that's what I'm saying. You want me to go out and call. Like, you seem so invested in my own fucking position. Like, you want me to sell? Do you want me to, like, what the fuck do you want me to do, dude?
No, I don't care if you
No,
sell.
you're calling me to action. You're fucking telling me, go look at this, go look at that, go look at this. Why? Why do you want me to look at it? Because you're trying to prove a point.
Well, no, I'm trying to prove that you can do more to actually.
You have this like soft voice. Here, I'll talk real soft and I'll gaslight you and yeah.
How am
No,
I gaslighting you? What have I said to you that is not true? That's
no,
the thing.
you're right.
You're acting like I'm doing
You're
something
right.
that I'm not doing.
You're right, dude. You're right. You're 100%. I don't know.
I think for the people
Taylor,
on the
that's
call,
the smartest thing.
Bro, let the guy talk. Biotech is having some good ass thoughts. Let him speak. Don't fake laugh at him. It's so cringy, bro. It's honestly so cringe to get so mad at this. Like, if you can't handle it.
Oh, goodbye, Joshy. Goodbye, Joshy. See you later.
I guess the point for me would be that if it makes you like angry to hear these points, I don't understand why. Because
No,
honestly, I'm trying to.
I'm not angry, bro. I'm emotional. I'm just a retailer. I don't know what I'm doing, man.
I have lost tons of money on stocks before, dude.
No,
I have.
Money,
I've lost
dude.
tons.
I'm losing money. I don't know what I'm doing, man. I need. You know what? I need to call some hospitals. I need to.
Why is that something you keep bringing up? Is it like a
No.
crazy idea?
I need to call. I need to do the research and see when the adoption rate has spiked. The CE adoption of European sales. I just haven't done my due diligence, man. You're right. No, you're 100%.
Okay. Look, I clearly between you and Catherine, this is a dead end, but
No,
I think the people listening to this call can hear
a dead end since it started,
the things
bro.
that
Hey, Biotech, got a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
How many hospitals do you want us to call?
Yeah, how should we call? Can you give us the number?
Wait a minute, isn't there over 8,000 hospitals we're talking about here? Or?
We're
Well,
just
there's
looking
only
at all of them.
there's a few key
All of
hospitals in
them.
each state. No, stop.
All your
There's a
representatives.
few key. Oh my God. In each
No, I
state,
just like to know how many hospitals are you looking at calling?
I'm trying to answer that question, but TCAM
Okay,
keeps just
all
fucking
right.
around.
Your lunch break, 8,000.
No. I'm sorry. You act like you're a professional in this industry. Do you not understand that there's key hospitals in each state?
Why are you
Okay,
That
so how
drive
many?
why are
How
you giving
many?
that biotech?
I'd like to know how many.
in each state, California being one of the largest, New York and others, you can probably go find, and you can Google this, there's probably between 3 and 8 hospitals in given states that would be the drivers for the majority of this adoption. And you can even pick like one state, or you could pick one in your own state just to find out if they've even heard of this technology. That's
Call one
reasonable,
So
right?
you're going to
hospital.
make your decision on one hospital.
Yep.
So if that hospital says, no, we don't know anything about T2, that's it.
You're
No,
Is
supposed
that
to
what
then
you're
sell,
saying?
then you call 2.
sell it
Did I
all.
say only call 1? I never said only call 1. I'm giving you an idea for ways that you can try to predict the adoption rate on this. Why
Yes.
is that like
Make extrapolation models of adoption rates during your lunch breaks.
Why would that be retail's job?
But
Well, because
to be fair, I don't think we would have access to the higher ups that are making those kind of decisions to even get that kind of
That's what I'm
intel.
saying, dude.
Yeah, if you make a call to a hospital, they're not going to
Just
tell
to
you
be
that.
fair, I'm not saying that's not a good idea, but
Oh, it's actually
I would kind of push back on just a random Joe Blow, no pun intended, Joe. I see your hand up. Just calling the hospital without any kind of credentials, trying to get some
oh no, you can
information.
absolutely do that. You can call a hospital and say,
hospital.
"Hey, I'm in the market for getting some blood work done. I've heard of this technology." That's it. That's all you have to do. It doesn't
Biotech,
have to
you're
be.
so stupid, dude. Oh my God.
I'm
I've
stupid.
spoken to the head of oncology at university hospitals regarding this. Do
Okay.
you understand how hard it was for me to get in contact with the fucking lab director as an active employee? And you want retail to call a hospital that they got the number from Google, and after the fucking music for 5 minutes that you're gonna get, because all the hospitals are understaffed, you're going to ask fucking some receptionist, "Hey, I'm an investor,"
Nope.
or okay, no, time out. You're gonna actually provide us a script because you have some fucking magical way of getting past the wall that we're gonna just Jordan Belford fucking use the script, and we're going to get past all the paywalls, and then we're going to ask them if they're interested in the technology, and
Nope.
based on that conversation you're going to make an investment decision. That is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard of in my entire life. Like maybe fifth grade kindergarten level investing thesis.
But I don't think the problem is that people don't know about it. I think the problem is the adoption and the integration, which is kind of like the confusion part that you're
It's because they
alluding
don't know the
to, and
medicine, dude.
kind of everybody is kind of questioning, like, what does that actually look like? Is it T2 resistance? Is it LDT line panel? Like, what
No,
does that really
I've
look
said
like?
this, so that's why I'm getting so frustrated, because I've said this so many times that it's T2 resistance one, but even guys, even with T2 resistance, you still have to run blood cultures. So even with that, it could drive conversion rate. I would expect it to drive some conversion rate, but even with that, you're not looking at massive adoption. You need next gen. You need more than 99.9% of the sepsis causing pathogen. You need the more than 250 pathogens and the 36 plus gram stain. I've said this before. You need next gen.
Hey
So
Joe, go ahead and speak if you need to.
what's up, Joe Dykman? See you sitting over there with your new profile pic. What is that? He's eating some edibles or something. So no,
who's this pretzel guy on that's online here? His name's Pretzel. I'm just kidding. I had to throw that in.
No, I wouldn't doubt if John's sitting in here. I would if I were him. This would be the ultimate form of entertainment. This would be the most entertaining thing I could listen to.
Did he go D1 for football or D2? What did he?
I think D2. He's definitely in college football.
Okay.
He's a jock.
Have you guys talked about Pretzel at all yet? I got on about 4:30, so I was out.
No, dude, we haven't.
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
No comments on him. I mean,
yeah. Well, the bottom line, I'm going to say it over and over, rinse and repeat. This is our whole fucking problem. This guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't read the 10Q yet, but I'm going to do it tonight, and I can't wait to read it.
Oh yeah, no, you're gonna. Geez,
I've seen some comments about it.
I would do it with something that makes you happy in the background and maybe a strong glass of bourbon or something.
Okay, well, I'll do that. I'm Canadian, so yeah, a bottle of beer will be fine with me. So
yeah, a bottle of beer will do it. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You're gonna get viscerally mad at it because it's just so doom and gloom. They no forward-looking statements really.
Okay. Figure that.
Yeah, just
how about that Sprague guy? Was he mentioned at all, or did he make any comments? Or
oh no, I don't know if Sprague was particularly mentioned, but they just made comments about how they can't that their
controls and procedures are not up to standard. Oh well, who do you blame there? Well.
Which I think was a
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, a little subtweet to John Sprague there, right? Like what is going on? Like, did this guy just have the shits and he couldn't get it filed? And what happened? I don't know, man.
Hey, what's the biotech think about John 𝗪𝗧? Any comments? Has he looked into management at all, or?
I don't know.
No, I've not looked into his past.
Oh, that's number one, eh? When you're investing in a company, management is number one. That's what you should be looking at.
Right.
But you haven't even looked at that. Did your due diligence on the management team?
Wants us to call hospitals first. Can't name the CFO.
No, I think that's actually a little bit backwards. If you're investing in a company and you want to look at their near-term future, you want to look at how much money they have, what the revenue ramp is, what the adoption rate is for the technology.
Well, that's forecast. That can change weekly. I'm a controller. I'm a finance guy. You can fudge those numbers all you want. It all comes down to your management team. In any company. I don't care if it's biotech, if it's auto, whatever. If you're not doing your due diligence on your management team, you don't know what the hell you're doing.
So he has a good track record then?
No,
Pardon me?
That's the funny part. Is he's tongue in cheek. The funny part is the management's shitty, and you're out here talking shit, and you don't even know about the management.
No, biotech. Yeah, they're a shit management team. That's what I'm telling you. This is the fucking problem.
So
3 year what? We've had what? 2 reverse splits. Give me a frickin' break. I mean, either they get rid of this guy, or I'm sorry, guys, we're in deep doo-doo here. Unless they sell the company, and you know how I feel about a buyout. I think that's our only way out of this. Now, short term, maybe 5 years, whatever. It's possible, but I don't think these guys can do anything with this company. It'll have to be sold. If you believe in the product line, the pipeline, sell the fucking company and go with that company that's taken over. If you truly believe in that product line.
Yeah,
these guys aren't going to do any. I'm sorry. These guys that are running the ship right now are not going to do it for us. Sorry.
I'll take 75 right now, or 100.
Well, whatever. But then what I say, take our lumps, take your money, and then say if it's whoever it is, 𝗖𝗎𝗓, then you go with them. You put your money into that. If you truly believe in the product, the
Right.
T2 pipeline,
No,
then you go with that company. Because 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧, they got a management team that's going to make this thing work.
yeah, because that's a great point. Because like, if let's say 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 or 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗃, however you say their stupid name.
No, I don't know how you pronounce
I
it.
don't know how to say it either, but
It's 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧.
okay, if 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, if 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗃 were to buy this company, it would be really interesting, right? Because they're approximately 10 billion valuation, and if I think that T2 is a multiple billion-dollar company, and if 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗃's valuation stays the same post acquisition or even drops, which they typically do in the near term, then
Right.
that presents a very good value situation, because essentially you're buying the stock at discount, when basically they just added 5 billion to their market capital.
Right. Typically, the stock price falls if any acquisition, it'll fall.
Right. Whoever it is, if it's
Whoever it is, exactly.
Thermo. But yeah, no, I agree. I think the ultimate outcome here is likely a buyout or merger acquisition or licensing deal, some deal.
I think that's our only hope, guys. Sorry to, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer but I think that's
the good news is that, even if, and by the way, when biotech, when you were talking about the 15, million quarter cash burn, I was straight up saying at the beginning of this that I saw the statement of like, it was 35, I believe it was from the 9 months preceding September 30th of 2023. They reported something of the sort of like 39 million. And it was, so what I did is I did the math on that. I did 39 divided by 9, right? Which is like 4 million a month, right? Which would be somewhat in line with your 15 a quarter estimation. So I straight up commented on that. I was like, I'm a little confused by that number, and then their statement saying Q3 of 2024. So I agree. There's some discrepancy there. But like I was saying, is we have T2 BioThreat that hasn't even been added to the balance sheet yet, or been accounted for in our revenue. So that's kind of just, I just wanted to go back to that, and I agree that we need a different manager. LaFleur, what's up, man?
Nah, I just saw Ricky down there. I just wanted to see if he had some comments or some thoughts.
Ricky. Oh, Ricky. Yeah, no, what's up, Ricky? Yeah, no, I by the way, speaking of that, I have not heard from Raj ever since that occurrence has happened. He hasn't really participated in the spaces or commented or anything. So, Ricky, you're free to come up here if you want to, but if you don't, no worries, because I know that with all these accusations, I would be hesitant to come up and not participate in stuff like that. So, kind of got.
You don't fucking scare me, TCamp.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm kidding.
No, dude, I'm not a scary dude. I'm the least scary person of them all. I'm like a little dog that has a loud bark. But no, I what's up, Ricky? How are you, buddy? But no, I agree. I think John Spursel needs to go. I don't even understand how he's still here. I mean, I do, but I don't. Like I understand the logistics of how he's still there, and the money and the greed, and if the money's flowing and people are getting paid, whatever. But in terms of operations and shareholder return and just everything else, strategy, I mean, this guy's just been awful. Like I said, my strategy wouldn't have been to fucking go after the COVID T2DX install base and then convert. My strategy would have been, how do we get T2 Lyme to market as fast as possible? Which is interesting, because that was the strategy before with Canon. But that was way, 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 way years ago, 2015, and they were so distracted with T2. They were still developing T2 bacteria, Canada, all that stuff.
I'm actually wondering why they even kind of put that stuff at the forefront, if they even mentioned LDT Lyme kind of earlier in the year, just as a priority, just trying to see kind of why they wouldn't kind of push that to the forefront, really.
You mean like now or prior to this?
Prior to this.
Yeah, no, confusing. I think it had to do with a few things. I think the context of the advancement of the other product pipelines, or I'm sorry, the other products being FDA cleared, right? Like the bacteria and the Canada. But
Yeah,
after,
but
yeah,
the fact that you're saying that it's a headwind that we don't have the resistance is kind of like, well, oh, that was kind of
exactly.
like a waste of time now, you know?
Yeah,
Kind of working backwards a little bit.
yeah, no, exactly. That's why it's like it's fucking shitty that me, a retailer, has the insight to be like that strategy was never gonna work. Like you guys, okay, yeah, sounds sexy, little Trojan horse thing. Right, like disguise it as COVID and then get him on the back end with sepsis. But it's like anyone with medical knowledge, right? 𝗪𝗧𝗛 doesn't have the actual science knowledge. He's been through sepsis and then he's a fucking quarterback. So he, you know, a leader naturally, so to speak. But it's like anyone with medical knowledge would have known that that's not going to work. They don't have the resistance panel. They still, even if they do have the resistance panel, we don't detect 100% of the organisms. They still need to do biothreat. We need to go after something that is going to fucking take the entire market now. And that would have been biothreat, and that would have been Lyme. So I agree with you. They should have had that knowledge before it even went. Like in that discussion, there should have been a hand that went up and been like, that sounds really good idea, but why are they not adopting it now? And does that change when we get T2DX in their hospital? And then there would have been just fucking grasshopper crickets of silence because there would have been no good answer. And then hopefully the conversation would have been steered toward how about we focus on T2 Lyme, right? Now that, because that would have been the perfect time. They were getting all they were raising money. Their stock price was you know at relative you know historical highs in at least a 5-year period back then. So they could have raised money at a great stock price. They had barter revenue coming in, like they were flush with cash for just a little bit, and then they fucking pissed it away. So I agree, it's so frustrating. But now it's like we have the groundbreaking tech designation for T2 Lyme that was awarded in 2022, which automatically fast tracks us for the FDA clearance pathway via the 510(k) submission. But if we want to do it faster, we can circumvent the FDA through the LDT pathway. And I think that's what they're focusing on now. And I think, how are they focusing on it now? I think it's through this accelerator contest. Because what the accelerator contest does, like Scott's been sending me things in my DMs, like on this accelerator contest while I've been working, which has been nice because then I can read it and not have to like dig myself. What it's basically doing is it's basically like a clinical trial in and of itself. It's basically this artificial fabricated, not fabricated, but artificial it's like a contest, but like they have like proof of concept questions and sensitivity and specificity questions and all of these different things. So it's not a contest, right? It's really more of like a clinical trial. And there's different phases of it. We won phase 1. The phase 2 results, I believe the screenshot that Scott sent me was supposed to be determined or judged on in December. And the judge is like very in the who's who of the medical community as well. I forget his name. I'd have to look it up in my DMs. But I think this accelerator pathway is the way that we're going to get this to LDT commercialization. I think we're going to leverage whatever results or award that we get from this accelerator contest for the LDT commercialization. I think they're going to be in tandem. So if the phase 2 is December, the results of that, right? That's obvious near-term revenue. I think a few $100,000 at least, which is nice. Nothing material, but something. At least you could maybe put it in the safe and use it as your cash reserve for the covenant clause for CRG. But more realistically, it's probably going to be put towards the LDT commercialization costs and expenses. Also, if you look at the statements regarding their cost of revenue, yes, they've had reduced cost of revenue. That's directly related to less revenue. That's to be expected. That's just intuitive. That makes sense. If you're selling less things, then the cost of selling things are also going to be, lower. But you can also look at the percentage of costs related to, or essentially year over year, and what you can determine from those. And I think maybe I'll post the screenshots if I haven't included them already. It shows that they're getting a little bit more efficient operationally. Like their shipping costs have reduced a little bit, and some of their other operation expenses. So their margins are increasing just a little bit, just from an operation expense. So that's kind of nice that they're becoming a little bit more efficient. That could be because they're not selling as many units and they can just operate more efficiently. It could be a number of different things. So I wouldn't read too much into it, but it is a positive factor to look into.
I want to actually kind of get back to biotech, talking about that burn rate. So it did say 15 million, and that's over 3 months. So are we talking like 5 million a month? Kind of. Is that what we're burning?
I mean, the 39 divided by 9 would have been putting us at 4 million a month. So that's the ballpark that I'm getting too.
Yeah, and I'm literally just looking at the 10Q. Under the comprehensive losses on page 2. 3 months ended September 30th, 2023. Comprehensive loss is 15,425,000, which it's down from the same period last year, 2022, which was 17,375.
Yeah, and I would take. I mean, you took a 3-month period. I'm taking a 9-month period. I think it's better to take a longer time period because any number of expenses can pop up in just one quarter and not repeat.
Yeah, so we're going from 51.9 in 2022 to 39.7, right?
Say that again.
In 2022, the 9 months ended September 30th was 51.9, 51,900,000, and in 2023 it was 39,737,000.
Yeah, so that's that 39 million that I divided by 9 and got like a 4 million and change per month.
Yeah, the average.
That would put you at, a little less than 15 a quarter, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like you said, 15 a quarter, but if you extrapolate over a 9-month period, it's actually closer to 12 and change a quarter. That was my point. But, yeah, even that. So again, that's over a 9-month period in the past. What happened over the 9-month period in the past, guys? They reduced OPEX by 30%. So I
want to see that actualized on the next one then.
You got to see it actualized on the next quarter report. Right? Because there's these weird 9-month period, 3-month period they're again, you can manipulate I know that these are like general reporting periods, but they can fall very awkwardly for the company based on when they reduced their OPEX, their head count, and etc. It's going to show up weird on a quarter report. Might not show up on this one. It might show up on the next one. It might get caught in a 9-month period reporting, and then enough time passes where that operation expense isn't included in that 9-month operating period. And then all of a sudden it looks better from a math standpoint. That's why you're always going to be late to the game if you're just analytic, you're just analyzing numbers and just being a robot. You got to look at the narrative. Look at their earnings per share growth over the last quarter over quarter over the last year over year. Just up, linear.
So what would we need to be profitable? What number would we need to be profitable? Just off the top.
Yeah, based on current OPEX and revenue. Just let's see here. If we're reporting, what were our net losses? That's what I was wondering. I know our net loss per share is 384 or whatever it was, but I was just looking at the actual gross number. I was trying to find it. While I'm looking, if I'm just going off of my gut instinct, I think that we would have to report a top line. If the bottom line doesn't change, I think we would have to report a top line above at least 30 million a year, which would be, what is that quarterly? 7 million in a quarter or something. I think we would have to get above at least 3 to 5 million a quarter to get profitable.
Top line or bottom line?
Top line. And I think that would come from, it could come from any number of things. It could come from a new BARDA contract that's dispersed in a lump sum or over a year, quarter over quarter. It could come from a lump sum TTOO biothreat government contract. It can come from increased slow conversion of current T2DX instruments with the sepsis panels with T2 resistance panel. There's just so many different ways. And then there's the T2 line. So there's no shortage of ways to increase the top line. That's the great part. Most companies struggle with that. It's like there's only so many ways you can limit your bottom line, right? You can fire people, you can get more efficient, but there becomes a point of limiting returns on the bottom side where you just need to fucking increase the top line.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then biotech, if you would tell me, if you were to analyze our stock chart, would you say that we're being manipulated? Would you say that there's some kind of manipulation going on based on the action that you're seeing, based on the small volume and the big percentage movements we're seeing intraday and things like that?
So first off, I don't do any sort of charting at all. The only thing I could say looking at that would be judging from 1 year ago to now, just on the share count from this 10Q, is that you have a 50x dilution rate, which that's really hard for any company to keep a stock price up when that's happening.
Yeah, no doubt. The company's been the biggest seller of its. That's why people laugh when they say this has been manipulated to the downside, because I would agree. Who's been the biggest seller? I've said this in other calls. It's a joke. It's funny. Who's the biggest short seller of T2? I pause, and then I say, well, that would be T2 Biosystems, right? Because of how much dilution. But then I say, if there's no dilution occurring right now, what's to explain the additional 80% drop after the reverse split? So that's when the baby gets thrown out with the bathwater. The retailer gets laughed at for suggesting manipulation when there's been dilution, but then they stop. They don't tell the full story. Well, why is the share price continuing to tank? Not just drop, tank in a non-dilutive environment. Is that not manipulation? So, like, any comments of what's causing the share price to drop on, without the context of any dilution that's occurring?
I guess what I would say for that would be then what people are looking at. One, share price, like it does drive the narrative, right? Like if you're on a downward slope, then retail is going to, everyone has a pain threshold, right? Or most people do, where they say like, okay, this is enough. I'm going to sell out. Especially in what has been historically one of the greatest bull markets we've ever seen. Not for biotech, to be fair. Absolutely not for biotech, especially not for small cap. So that's one thing. It's just a fatigue of the investor base. The other thing would be, I mean, the same thing that I'm doing here when I'm talking to you guys is if someone pulls up the numbers quarter to quarter and they see that their investment over time is both having a reduced return in terms of their capital investment because the stock price is going down, and then also they look at the revenue rate and they see that's actually going down quarter over quarter, which from the COVID peak, factually, it is going down quarter over quarter at the moment. And you can say that,
Oh, but I'm asking specifically why the 80-90% drop in share price since the reverse split when there hasn't been dilution and the volume doesn't suggest it's insiders or institutions selling. Why?
Yeah, and for the most part, I would say largely people selling, right? Like
no, but the volume, doesn't that reflect selling? So we're seeing all-time low volume and over the last 4 to 5 to 6 months, and a negative 90% drop in share price. How does that happen?
Well, I don't know that I'm not quite sure I understand your focus on the volume, right? Because if there's only a certain amount of people still left in the stock because they've sold out previously, every single time someone sells out of the stock, there's less people in the stock. And so the volume day to day is going to drop. And then if you add reverse splits into it, the volume is going to drop as well, right? Because now there's fewer shares available. So what about the volume is specifically concerning?
No, I'm asking you. Go ahead, Flair.
Yeah, well, me specifically, if you were to look at the the chart, you'll see kind of like 100 volume, and then the stock will drop 2%, 3%, 4%, and you won't see that kind of uplift when it's kind of like to the upside. So that's what I'm kind of alluding to. But I mean, I kind of agree. It's definitely a low volume.
It's like you're telling me that no one is left in the stock, and that's why it's dropping on no volume.
No. No, it's not what I said. I said that as people sell out, there's less people in it. Which, I mean, it's just.
Well, wait a minute.
But then again, I'm buying though.
No, for sure. I'm not saying.
But I'm buying. So why is it not going up?
Well, where there's a seller, there's a buyer.
Yeah, where the fuck did
you're forgetting the other side of the transaction?
Exactly. So I'm like, okay.
You can't just sell and that's it.
What the fuck are you talking about?
No, I'm not forgetting that at all. So there are sellers and buyers, right?
And
so if there's 1,000 people who are down on the stock and they'd like to sell whenever it pops upwards because they're holding a net loss and they're like, okay, well, the next time it goes up 10%, I'm out, right? Which is a pretty normal psychological thing to do. Then you have more sellers waiting to sell than you have buyers hoping to buy. And the reverse of when it drops and people are like, okay, I've had enough. And there's 1,000 sellers hoping to sell at a certain price. And there's only a smaller percentage of people willing to buy. Then you would have on smaller volume a bigger drop. Then you'd have a rise, right? Because there's more people who are hoping to get out on a rise than they're hoping to get in on a drop.
Right. And that's where the market maker comes in and adds that liquidity. And then what are they going to do? Buy the share at the current price or get a discount on it? It's going to drive the price.
You guys just did some fucking like mathematic arithmetic gymnastics.
So not really.
Vague, super fucking vague. What do you mean?
I mean, so okay. So
I
on
want
stock that is
specifics.
no, I'm gonna do this. So if you have a
People
stock that is
sell, and then this is some vague shit, dude. There's
no,
a
it's not vague.
purchaser. There's no. For every transaction, when I sell a stock, it either goes to another buyer or it just goes into the market maker inventory. Yes or no?
Yeah, market makers will try to provide liquidity, but they do have to have someone on each side of the trade, right? So
No, right. So if I sell the stock, it either goes into the market maker inventory or someone else bought it.
right, but the market maker inventory is not some elastic pool that lasts forever.
So
It
let
is
me
a
ask
limited
you,
thing.
if a stock has more buyers than sellers, will it go up?
It depends on the size of the buyer and the size of the seller.
Didn't I just say if it has more buyers than sellers?
Yeah, and there's two different questions, right? So if you have one person who has 10 million shares who wants out, and there's
Wait,
a
no,
million
no.
buyers who only want
No,
one share.
I'm asking a super fucking basic math question. If there
Okay.
are more buyers than sellers, meaning if there are 100,000 buyers and 50,000 sellers, will the stock go up or down if in that same moment they're trading with each other?
And they're all trading the same share size?
Yeah, in your example, you want share size.
Yeah, I'm trying to explain this to you, and for some reason you're
Okay,
getting
go
mad about it.
tell me the math on the share size.
Sure. So let's say you have one person who has 1 million shares to sell, and they want out of the stock. And you have 500,000 people who all want to buy one share. So is your buying pressure bigger or smaller than your selling pressure?
They're equal.
Nope. You have half the buying pressure of your
Right.
selling pressure.
Correct.
And that is where we come into play with this. And so what it has to do with T2 is if you have a stock that is down 99% over X amount of...
So you explain this.
I'm saying something that is actually useful.
No,
to
I'm
hear.
asking you to explain something that I don't get. You're telling me that if someone comes in and wants this to sell 1 million shares, and then you have 1 million people that just want to buy each one of them singularly, you're telling me that
Well, then you're flat. That's not what I said.
What?
Then you're flat, but that's not what I said.
Well, that's how I interpreted it, and that's why.
Oh, sorry.
So
did anyone else hear me say that?
Yeah, you said sell 1 million and buying pressures at 500,000, which is half.
Oh, you said 500,000? I heard 1 million and 1 million.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, my point was that you can have a lot more buyers in terms of the number of buyers, but it doesn't mean that your net sales versus buy pressure is the same. And that's where a lot of this comes into play, where people talk about like, oh, the order flow was 80% buys. But that's only looking at the amount of buy orders that were put in. And that could be 80% of people bought 10 shares, but you had 20% of people that wanted to sell 100,000 shares. And so that's why
that's like utilizing the reported of percentages of buys and sells. Okay, I understand that. Can you tell me who the fuck is buying 30,000 shares in 1 minute? And why stock isn't moving?
Yeah, so a lot of
But
times...
also, and then second to that, I'm not seeing the selling pressure on the order book either. So it's like I'm seeing some buying pressure like here and there, but I'm not seeing anybody selling really either. So I'm
that's what we're all
confused
saying.
Too.
And biotech is giving us some explanation of how we're all wrong and we are all fucking idiots.
I really don't think I said that at all.
No, you don't. You don't say anything mean. You come in super fucking calm and sound
told you that,
like
Taylor.
Huh?
I told you that.
Yeah, I mean, dude. Yeah, dude, I mean, it's just like, just because I have a fucking volatile like volume and I'm not monotone and people don't fucking fall asleep when I talk, doesn't mean I'm any less wrong or right than you, or you're more intelligent, or like you.
I mean, do you want me to be mean? Do you want me to like drive it into you, man? Like I can if you want, but I don't think that really helps people.
You can try, but you're not gonna drive shit, bro.
Dude, if you're down 99% on your investment and you refuse to listen to people who are not down 99% on your investment, then you are the fucking idiot. How's
There
that?
you go. Yes. Thank you. Some emotion. You are human. Oh my God. I love it. That's the most fucking human thing you've said all day long.
Yeah, but it's as true as anything else I've said.
That's fine. People called Michael Burry a fucking idiot. They had investors like emailing to sue the guy.
He was never down 99%, my man.
The percentage is fucking irrelevant.
And you know what he did? He looked into filings, which when I told you to do that, you said, why would I do that? I have an instinct.
I
He
looked into
read the filings.
What
No.
filings
He
have I
read.
not looked into, biotech?
You acted like it was the craziest thing in the world to call up a local hospital and ask
So
if
is
they
a
charted the treatment.
filing the same thing as calling a hospital?
It's all the same idea.
No, it's not the
same
fucking
idea.
same, you fucking idiot. Get the fuck out of my space call. Goodbye. This is my space call. If you don't want to listen to me, leave. If you're worried about my investment more than me, leave. If you want to make comments about not listening to people because I'm 99% down, which I'm not, I'm 80% down, leave. I don't fucking care.
Taylor, let this be a lesson to you. When you sniff out someone who's come into your spaces to hammer at you and to put down what you believe in,
He wouldn't stop. He wouldn't.
I know. And you heard him. You sniffed it out in 5 seconds. I know you did.
No, but I like to give people a fucking space because other people want to hear it and they want to give them the time and the fucking space and they want to, because they don't fucking know as much as I do. So I have to sit here and just fucking take it. This guy has 1 iota of my medical knowledge and he's out here talking to me about calling hospitals and asking why the fucking hospital hasn't adopted it. I'm supposed to just fucking sit here during my day off and fucking entertain that shit?
No, and you entertained it long enough for everyone to hear it. And the best thing you could have done, and you finally got around to it, was you agreed with him. That was the fastest way to shut him up.
Yeah, he has nothing else to say when I agree to him. And that highlights him. He has some... Why? Why are you here? You don't have a position. What
Probably to get you wound up.
I'm the idiot. You're the one who's talking for hours with someone when you don't have a position and you don't have a short position, but you're just some fucking neutral, quiet, monotoned, very tempered fucking genius. And I'm the retard.
He succeeded, Taylor. He yanked your chain.
Let's get back to it. Let's kind of, calm down a little bit. Cash has his hand up, and then we got some comments under the space. So you can go ahead, Cash.
Hey, T-Camp.
What's up, Cash?
Yeah, listen to Catherine and I. We're a lot older than you. I'm over 50, just for the record. Don't entertain these guys. Nobody actually wants to hear it. Just realize that. They're here just to get your goat. Don't let it get there. It's okay to entertain them, but once you realize they have their piece, right? Feel free to cut them off. You're right. It's your space. But I want to cover a couple things. You guys kind of touched on. I just jumped on a little bit ago, and I've been listening. But part of this equation you guys are trying to do gymnastics of, I think some of the answer is in. I don't like using the word dilution. We know now, right, with the new filing, you saw the new outstanding shares, 4 million.
Yeah, 4.5 or something.
So again, that was kind of my gut, unfortunately, is that they're doing some micro revenue raising. And so that would explain, right? You have a buy and they're selling into buys, right? Little amounts. So that would explain possibly that the price is kind of flat or it's not really moving and it's not rising, even if there's a little more buying going on. So that's kind of my point. And I don't know if we need to really hammer that down.
Now,
I
do you
think it
think that I agree with you wholeheartedly? Because otherwise, what would be suppressing that price? Now, what
exactly
my
doesn't add
question
up.
is, wouldn't that just be essentially them selling shares straight into institutional hands? I mean, that much volume being transacted in 1 minute.
Yeah, we don't know, right? We don't know as retail really how that goes, and they have multiple ways, I'm sure, of doing that, right? Whether it's
Well, I know that when I've listened to the Market Maker Confessions of the Market Maker series, I know that kind of the structure of how this happens, and maybe this is what's going on, is essentially the market maker will pool limit orders. So like if you have a bunch of retailers that have limit orders at like 450 to buy, and share price is at, let's say 445 or something like that, they will essentially wait until all of these limit orders pool, and then they'll sell that the offering in these chunks to these limit orders, and they'll just like bang, 30,000 orders will just fill at that price, and it'll jump across the lit pool as like a 30,000, 1 minute transaction. We all think it's coming from one individual, when in reality it's hundreds or thousands of retailers just getting pulled into one order to fill the offering transaction.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. We just don't know how much they're saying to pool, right? They could be saying, "Hey, don't impact the price too much to take it down," right? This would be my thinking. This is just my personal view. I don't think they want to tank the price. They want to try and keep it stable, but they still need a little revenue. So they might just pool up a little bit so it's not as impactful as say 30,000 shares, right? Because that's gonna move it quite a bit with the share, the outstanding shares size that it is now, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
So
I agree.
being delicate there,
Yeah,
there's gonna, you know,
but I think we hit the nail on the head that we were right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think
yeah, it makes sense, right?
yeah, it does, and I think that's amazing that we're getting this right. Being here in the dark, and we're out here like, calling what's happening. Like, you and I, and some
I mean, well, I'm sorry.
what, LaFleur?
I mean, that's just funny. I mean, that's just fucking dumbasses. Management. It's
No,
like
you're right. We're
fucking. We can fucking call their fucking bluffs. We can
yeah.
call the plays. Fucking.
Well,
No, it's a
yeah, because
joke. It's like
well,
we're in the
as an
dark.
investor, right? If there's anything you're learning as a retail investor over time, is that you have to start reading between the lines. You can't go by what someone says. You can't go by graphs. It has to add up, and it has to make sense, right? And so when you see these buy sells, instead of getting upset and pointing fingers and trying to come up, you have to start thinking, okay, why does that make sense, right? Because it's easy to get
Yep.
frustrated, but you also have to step back and be reasonable and say, okay, it's going down. We see these buys going through. So someone's buying that, right? Or they're selling into the buys somewhere, right? Either institutionals buying them and taking them like somewhere, right? Or I mean, that's the only sensible thing, right? It makes sense to you. Makes sense to me.
No, it makes total sense to me, and it actually is the only thing that makes sense to me from like a mathematical perspective of why is share price not going up. I think
Right.
rather than focusing on who it is it institutions, is it retail? I think the better point is that the share price, yes, it's going down, but it's absorbing whatever this dilutive process is. And yeah, it's dropping from 5 to 4. That's concerning, but we're not tanking. I think if the share price went, or I'm sorry, if the outstanding share pool went from 3.5 to 4.5, and they've diluted, 1 million shares essentially, that means that they're raising a pretty decent amount of capital. Did we not, kind of anticipate a 3 to 5 million capital raise? Isn't that kind of the ballpark? I don't know. So I think that's
Right.
great that we're able to kind of anticipate this dilution. And I also think that it's got to be towards the end, right? What's up, Joe? Can you talk now?
Taylor, there's 5 microphones open, and I can't hear everybody. It breaks up a lot.
Uh-oh. I wonder whose mic. I hear that noise. I wonder if that's from Joe. I'm going to mute you, Joe. I think it was from Joe. Damn you, Joe. Can you hear me? Can you hear us better now, Catherine? I'm assuming. Cash, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you here.
Okay, good. Yeah, no. So I agree. I think that they're actively diluting. We know that they're actively diluting. Whether it's 800,000 that they've raised based on that screenshot, or if it's closer to 3.5 million, Cash and I have been discussing. We think that they are going to raise anywhere from 3 to 5 million. So that's in line with our expectations. And yes, share price is dropping, but I think in context to $1 or whatever, I think it's absorbing it quite well. What'd you say, Joe? I had a mic. Oh, that's funny. Joe didn't even know his mic was up here. Yeah, dude, your mic is working, or now he's gone. Jeez. Anyway, so did anyone have anything else on the dilution aspect? I agree. I think that they're. Who knows if they're actively done though? I think that's the question, right? Are they done diluting? Like, is it over? What do you think, Cash? Is Cash gone? Cash is gone. Everybody's gone.
I don't think we really know if they're going to dilute more or,
I think it'll just be a waiting game.
Big question mark there.
Yeah, if you look at the 4-hour chart, I think that's kind of interesting to look at in terms of the volume. The first 4 hours of trading this morning, that 9:00 a.m. Eastern Standard Time candle was the largest 4-hour candle that we've had since November the 1st. So that's more than 2 weeks of trading where that 4-hour candle essentially has the most buy volume in 2 weeks. So we'll see if that marks the beginning of some uptrending volume. But I do believe that all of this weak price action is just a lack of volume mixed in with some dilution. Share price is just getting whacked.
Does this thing work yet?
Can you hear me now, TCAP?
Yeah, I got you.
Sorry about that. I think I was in a bad area. But yeah, I don't know what we can anticipate as where it's at. I think, we as retail looking in, we just have to make sound gut decisions of what's going on. We have to be okay with it, right? And I think we kind of assumed 3 to 8 million might be a good number if they need some extra funds to push some of the stuff forward. It makes sense. I think, yeah. And I think that's kind of where we're at, right? What were we at? 3.4, and now it's at 4?
Yep.
So 600.
Hey.
Can
you hear me?
Yeah, is that Joe?
Yeah, we can hear you, Joe.
I don't know what's going on with this, man, but the dilution was before the split, bro. They sold at prelims. They told you they sold $21 million worth. When the 10Q came out, it just adjusted the outstanding shares.
Oh, okay. So the 4.5 is reflecting the 21 million of the ATM that they used in the previous 9 months.
Correct. Well, they told you they used it. They sold like in the third quarter when they did the prelims.
No,
They
you're
said
right.
they acquired.
Did we not think to update the outs? Wow, we're a bunch of idiots. I mean, I'm an idiot. Sorry, but you're right. The 4.5 doesn't mean that that's new dilution. That just means, well, I mean, it's just updating the outstanding shares from the dilution that occurred already that we know
Yeah,
about.
because it was from a shelf, so it doesn't. When you sell from a shelf, it doesn't update till quarter results.
Yeah. Good point. And so I think that 0.8 million in that screenshot that I have that says subsequent to or after the September 30th date, I think that's the newest dilution that we've seen from the ATM. 800,000. That's like nothing.
So if that's true, does that mean that we haven't seen an update in revenues generated from that also?
No, I because the ATM, the 21.7 million or however much it was, I think was the revenue generated from it. So that's what helped our cash balance position.
Yeah, I get that it's not filed till later. I'm just not sure why it's popping up now and not when they updated the pre. Is it just a time thing on the preliminary one they just did?
I think it's a time thing. I mean, all I know is that, I mean, yeah, the 10Q thing I think is probably just the time thing, but even the brokerages take forever to upload their outstanding share sizes and stuff.
Yeah, and of course this is a filing, so this is direct from them.
Direct from them.
And again, and not to say one way or another, I'm not going to push this rhetoric. I'm just saying, I mean, they could still be doing a little dilution that hasn't shown up yet, possibly. There's still that on the table, but
Totally. I think we're still right to anticipate that, expect it. But it is nice to know that 4.5 is kind of already accounted for.
It was only like 4, right? It wasn't 4.5, or am I wrong? I thought
So
it was like
that's funny you say that, because with Scott in my DMs, I'm like, I see 4, and then I see it's called like a diluted based average or something like that. I think that was the 4.5 that I saw.
Oh, wow. All right. The other thing I wanted to bring up, just to kind of move forward from that, not to harp on that, I wasn't trying to go there.
Oh, it's okay.
So I would totally agree with you. Going back to this whole 10Q earnings release, and the verbiage was just astronomically negative, down. It was so like on purpose. There's no other way to see it, right? Like,
yeah, no, absolutely. Like,
so
in my
based on that, let me ask you this. So based on that, because that's how I feel like, wow, this is so obscurely derived negatively. Like, what's your take of that? Stepping back, like, why would they do this?
Yeah, you mean why the intentional dooming?
Yeah, why that angle?
In my opinion, that has to do with an M&A.
100%.
That's my only conclusion.
Right. I think that's the question we have to ask ourselves. It's kind of so obvious. It really aligns with this whole downer, when they did the reverse split. It's the same message, right? Would you agree with that I feel?
It's funny that you joined in late, because in the beginning, and I'm not saying this negatively, I think I love that you are bringing it up without knowing that I talked about it earlier. That is kind of where I'm like, this is intentionally worded poorly. It is repetitive language from the previous 10Q, which makes no sense because the company is in a materially different position than it was during the previous 10Q. So why the same doom and gloom, or even worse doom and gloom on this 10Q when we're in a better position? It seems like psyops for an M&A or something.
I mean, because it seems way worse,
Oh yeah, no, it does.
They went a lot deeper into like this negative, like layers of negative reinforcement, right? Is that how you felt?
And that not even balanced with any forward looking of their current pipeline. What's the purpose of that? I understand the purpose of putting in the negativity And it would make sense if it was balanced with some forward-looking statements, but it's just negativity. That is it.
I would. The only thing I would add to that is if they are already in the process of contracts exchanged and due diligence from the other side, their own legal team would tell them, keep hush, do not say anything. And if you've listened to what 𝗪𝗧𝗛𝗪's since probably I think August 15th,
Yep.
or was it August 16th, when he did that call in regards to something that was going on for sepsis, was the only time he's spoken without it being off a script.
Yep, 100%.
The last couple of times, so when it was just the agreement of the reverse split, that was nothing major, but that was just scripted. It was a 5-second conversation. It was done just to let everyone know it's done. Fine, nothing major there. But when they had the last earnings call, 100% he was just reading off of a script, simply so he could not have the chance of saying it off the top of his head and something slipping out.
Totally. No, I 100% agree with that.
If something slips out, it can jeopardize the entire deal.
Yes, and TJ, have you seen or watched Succession?
Yes, I love that show.
Isn't that amazing? Do you think, doesn't that, you know how when they were in the final season, the talks with, what's his name? That young tech guy.
I know who you're on about, but yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
During that deal, everything was hush-hush.
Yeah.
And if anything got out, it jeopardized everything. It truly was the most sensitive thing. So I'm how could it not be the same here?
There's another example that I'll give you, which was a high-profile example when Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre sold Beats to Apple.
Oh, interesting.
And I think it was 24 hours before the deal was signed and announced. Dr. Dre had a party with a couple of his closest friends. Tyrese was one of them, the guy who's in Fast and Furious.
Yep.
And he live streamed the video. He live streamed the party saying, celebrating with the first hip hop billionaire.
Oh my God. And then people were like, what do you mean?
What? Yeah. And then it got out, and then Apple took the deal off the table.
Oh my Christ.
Renegotiated, and it cost them something like $300 million.
$300 million. Okay, got you. Wow. So you're essentially,
and that's a big example of it. That's a famous example of why everyone is so hush hush during an MA, and Apple are notorious for it. That if you're going through well, it's always an acquisition. If it's through Apple, you are 100% dead silent about it. And it was, I don't even think the ink had dried on the contract, or Apple might not have signed their side, and Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine must have signed their side. Thought, that's it, it's done, we can celebrate tonight. And no, not until you receive the contract back from the other side, from your solicitor, is it done.
Oh my God. What a great example, man. That's awesome. That is like so valuable, because that highlights, it stresses the importance of, retail's so frustrated. Talk to us. But we don't realize that, guys, hundreds of millions of dollars are on the table here if something spills. Like if 𝗪𝗧𝗛𝗪 comes out just to cater to retail, to pat us on the back and say, it's okay, little boy or little gal.
He doesn't care. If this is going through, he knows he's getting a massive payout.
Yeah, this guy is going to be a 100 millionaire.
Yeah. But why be so negative, though? Why be so negative? Like,
to get retail out. To get retail out. I don't know.
the other thing is, if he's negative, he can't ever be accused of letting news out. If he's positive, on the other hand, he could be accused of letting news out or giving investors the hope that something was happening down the line. If he's negative, or if he doesn't say anything whatsoever, and he just keeps telling us news that we already know, because this is what TTOO's saying, that TCAM, sorry, is they're constantly just telling us stuff that we already know, but we know that the pipeline of the business and the future products is the future of the business, and it's around the corner, but they don't talk about it.
Yeah, and the bio threat has completely disappeared, right? Let's be obvious. But
It's
TJ,
been gone, evaporated.
Yeah, and TJ, like, have you seen this where they do? Have you seen an example of this where they do their reporting and it's like just slanted like this before a buyout of this example?
I've never been involved in any company that has been through a buyout, so I wouldn't be able to give any examples of it. It's only once case studies I've read thereafter. The Beats by Dre was a massive one that was covered internationally in the news, and obviously I grew up listening to 2001, so that had a special place in my heart when it was saying it about Dr. Dre. So I followed that one and just listened to what was happening with the deal. But yeah, it was a huge one, and Tyrese cemented himself as one of the biggest idiots in the hip hop community with that that stupid video that he made.
Yeah,
but I could imagine, I could imagine that the guys that are a part of the board who know that this is happening or whatever, if they haven't even agreed anything with anyone, but they're in talks, serious talks, you're not going to want to jeopardize it at all.
Nope.
Not when you've seen this company burn through so much cash over the years.
Exactly.
You've got to the end. You know you've got your product ready, but now realistically, you know we haven't got the capacity to send it out to market.
Yeah, this is like their life raft. They've been floating at sea. They're shipwrecked. They've been floating at sea for weeks or months. They're about to die. They've been drinking their own piss. They're like about to die, and a boat has come up on the horizon. And basically, if they miss this boat, they're dead. They're shark meat.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, there is an organic path, but
there's an organic path, but geez, that's going to be painful.
It's so painful. It's so painful. It probably is more dilution, and maybe you get return, at the end of 10 years or something. But like,
it'll be painful if T2 have to do this. They have not got the pockets to do it.
Exactly.
No, they don't.
What's up, guys?
Right. So I think somebody mentioned reverse merger in the comments.
Yeah, go.
I'm not really too familiar with that kind of situation. If somebody could kind of expound on that, if they have some knowledge to it.
You mentioned that last time, I think. And he has his hand up, so that'd be perfect. Space Ghost, weren't you talking about a reverse merger?
Yeah, I don't know how that would apply right now unless they had somebody that's private that they would want to bring public.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that happens on the OTC a lot. You'll see those reverse mergers, with these shell companies. That's what you'll see, a reverse merger. Like a private company wants to go public. Well, that's the cheapest way to do it.
Right.
Oh, and then they go T2. Wow.
Well, that's what we're talking about. Could be a private company wanting to get into the public.
But how does that
market
work?
Well, it's just another way of an IPO or a SPAC entrance. It's just not as regulated.
Does the private company in that scenario are they a $1 billion company, or like
could be, yeah.
I'm just trying to think of a private $1 billion company that I don't know about. And space.
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty out there.
Oh, I'm sure there are, for sure. And I don't like, actually, private companies are super interesting space that I am not well versed in at all.
It happened with Twitter.
I mean, like SpaceX, we know of, is like $1 billion company
Well,
that is private, but
yeah, Twitter went private.
yeah, Twitter's private. Does anyone know of any like private? Let's do some. Maybe I'll do,
Biotech, like a private biotech company.
yeah. I'm gonna do some Googling, like private biotech company.
Well, there's got to be hundreds, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
But I'm just wondering, like, this sepsis is like, right? We got to remember that. That's great if a private company wants to come and IPO, but hey, we got Dana here, we have Thermo Fisher, we got QIAGEN that all want sepsis. You know what I'm saying? So
that's
like,
great.
They got competition if they want to do a reverse merger.
Yeah.
And we also know that these companies have billions of dollars on their cash, balance sheet, just available to scoop this thing up if they want,
Maybe Kevin O'Leary will buy it.
I mean, honest to God, I got sense that Warren Buffett's like trying to rapidly get in a position right now.
Mark Cuban,
this isn't a company Warren Buffett would buy currently, though.
I doubt that. Yeah.
I think the other good news that came out this week, which I don't think has been covered, has been the inflation data as well. With that coming down, 2024 looks like there will be a reduction in the current interest rates as well, which makes borrowing cheaper.
A Fed pivot 2020 looks to be possible.
When borrowing gets cheaper, everyone goes on a buying spree.
Yep.
Or a spending spree. Because it's just so cheap to do.
Yeah, but the problem is it's like, boy, the Fed fund rate's going to have to really drop for, like, I don't know if someone has the luxury of waiting as long as a Fed pivot to scoop this thing up.
Well, it doesn't have to be massive if you think about it. What if the next Fed, between now and May realistically, we were thinking when was it last May or was it last June that they announced that they were looking into mergers and acquisitions?
Yeah, I think it was May.
Yeah, you don't just announce that to shareholders if you haven't already started.
Sure. Okay. Yep.
So if you'd say it's a 12-month process to sound out buyers and then see if they're interested, and for them to go through their due diligence to see if they actually do want to go ahead and purchase it, and if it's going to work out for them and for the shareholders of the company based on the offer, you'd think that would take about 12 months.
Okay, yeah, and that would put us right into Q3 of 2020, Q2 essentially of 2024.
Yeah.
Which is right before we're going to run out of cash, not adjusting for forward revenue or OPEX changes.
But you got to know that they're not going to wait to the last minute.
No, they're 100%. They wouldn't wait till the last minute. They're not going to let the company just run to the end of the runway with whatever cash they've got. If they haven't got a buyer in place or they know nothing's going to happen, then it would be more dilution.
Right. So the question becomes like, if they're already in talks since May with somebody or maybe multiple entities, obviously we know the process takes a long time naturally, just at baseline, but somewhat complicated by the fact that this is a pipeline that is continuing to advance. So like how, like essentially the LDT Lyme, you know what I'm saying? Like what happened?
I think any purchaser that's going for this now, you go on the condition of everything else gets market ready, and then we buy you, rather than we take on the risk of we've got to take on either your research and interpret it, or we've got to take on your staff.
Sure.
and we probably don't want to take on any of your staff, because why would we want to take them on from a smaller business where realistically you'd look at them as inferior coming into a bigger business?
Yep. And we all know that, like, it takes research and development and time to develop a platform, so it would just make a lot more sense to buy it when it's already ready to plug and play. But I wonder if Lime is the determining factor in getting this thing bought.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think
kind of what I was gonna say, right? Like, obviously, a company wants as much product, that's already established, so they're getting value. Of course, Lime, but is BioThread enough, or are they gonna just wait for Lime?
Uh,
And I do think that's why Lime has popped up. I think it is a part of this scenario.
Yeah, because next gen, we know, like, I mean, outside of BARDA, it's going to take at least 2024 to get next gen to market. So if we're talking about a buyout before Q3 of 2024, then in my opinion, that has to be going off of the assumption that next gen is not complete yet, which then makes me wonder, like, how do you place this? How do you get the valuation that you want based on our current? Because you and I, all of us listening, we, at least a lot of us, are in agreement that we know the potential of the next gen valuation. But in terms of like an actual hard, objective merger and acquisition negotiation, we know that those talks are a little bit more objective. And so I wonder if T2 Lime getting that commercialized is really the instigating factor that we need to solidify a buyout, because that essentially is going to, I mean, guys, if T2 Lime is truly a multiple billion-dollar market, then I would say if we've cornered the T2 market with our commercialization, then I mean, that makes us a billion-dollar company before next gen, guys. Yeah.
That's the part that's interesting to me, right? Is contemplating like who your buyer is. Granted, if they don't have a Lime out and someone wants to buy it, let's say like someone brought up, right, a private company, they can get a really good value of this company right now. I hear that, but it's a great value, right? But if the Lime comes out and they get Lime online and they have the BioThread and
I'm sorry. I'm removing him. I'm sorry.
And I guess my point is, sorry, is
collect your thought again. My bad.
The more products are online, the value is going to be there. So I think companies like QuietGen, like Danny here, right? They're the ones that want to see more stability. In my mind, this is my opinion. Whereas like a private buyer might be interested in buying them where they are now because they get a better value pushing forward. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. And
or a company just wants T2 Lime.
Yeah,
keep that in mind. They don't want the rest of it.
Exactly.
They say, no, all we want is T2 Lime. You do what you want to do with your BioThread and all that shit. We don't want that.
Dude, you're so, oh, yes, Vet, you're my favorite. Like, no, I say that every time someone says something I like, because that is like, that's how I feel about this. Is there's so many ways that you could want this company. You could, Thermo Fisher, they're in the ELISA test pathway for Lyme. Why would they? That is going to essentially, I mean, maybe they use it for validation purposes or something for late stage Lyme, but like, it's going to be basically useless once T2 Lyme is commercialized. You don't think Thermo Fisher is not looking at T2 Lyme and being like, huh, that would be nice to have?
And what's kind of interesting, we might want to look into on that, and only because I actually work in the laboratory medical field. I actually work on their sterilizers and stuff. You probably know what company I work for since you're in the medical field. But I do work in these laboratories, and I didn't know
I
that
have I have an idea.
Yeah, if you know medical sterilizers and equipment, you know who I work for. But so I'm in laboratories and all these Eli Lilly, Johnson Johnson. I work in all these places. But I didn't realize that Benton Dixon BD Bio, Benton Dixon actually owns Thermo Fisher, which I didn't know. And that might be something we need to dig into.